Welcome, Lund loyalists, YouTubers watching on John Lund Unleashed and the Bay Area Sports Collective, those watching on X and Instagram and listening on Apple and Spotify. It's John Lund Unleashed and JohnLundUnleashed.com. Brought to you by 𝐟𝐸𝐵 Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center. Right now featuring amazing stem cell technology. For all your pain and for the guys, check out the latest in low T and testosterone therapy to make you feel like yourself again. 𝐟𝐸𝐵 Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center at 𝐟𝐸𝐵Cosmetic.com. Now, all juiced up and ready to go. Here's Johnny.
Wow. What a day. We were here together this morning speculating, trying to give you as much information as we possibly could, but let me get myself out of that window right there. There you go. That looks better. My goodness. Where do we start? The reason I'm even more minutes late than I said, so I originally made this for 7 o'clock. Had a dentist appointment today, so my mouth is still a little bit numb, but I don't care. You and I need to talk. We need to discuss. Just as I was getting ready to hit the button here, there's a report out now that Brandon Aiyuk might go to Cleveland. My goodness, man! So let me just reset this thing and make sure we're not missing anything. But there's a report now, Brandon Aiyuk to Cleveland, which I can't imagine what they could get for Brandon Aiyuk here, because there is a little bit of a word out, and maybe they're just that mad at Brandon Aiyuk. But anyway. Lots of stuff to talk about as I'm just kind of flipping through here, but I'll give you the recap in just a second. But thanks for joining us for a night version, episode 84, free agency for 49ers, day one. Mass exodus is the only way that it can be looked at. Only Dre, to me, hurt so far, but we'll get into that as well. Now what? NFL free agency as a whole, good, bad from day one, still out there. But as you can see right here, let me just throw this up before I get to the it doesn't matter if it's day or night, whatever. We're still going to do a roll call, but we appreciate everybody coming in. Right there's the scorecard. If you haven't caught up today, Dre Greenlaw goes to Denver, $3 and $35 million. Hufanga, Denver, $3 and $45 million. Ward, that was expected. His wife has PTSD because of what happened with their young child for California. She can't come back into the state. She can't do it. Travarius Ward to Indy at $3 and $60. Jalen Moore, that's a joke for Kansas City to do that. $2 and $30 million. Aaron Banks, ridiculous that Green Bay gave him $4 and $77, but they did. Elijah Mitchell, we hardly knew ye, $3.5 million to Kansas City. Juice is going to be released, but I told you when Luke Farrell was signed, and I sent this out earlier today when I was signing at John Lund Radio on Twitter and X, I was sending that out. And once I saw Luke Farrell, the former Ohio State tight end, get $3 and $20.25, I said that's it for Juice, because he's going to be a move tight end. He's a blocker, not a receiver. So I think in the draft, they'll still look for a receiving tight end, but it's not as desperate as it would have been. But that is the scorecard right there. Just a quick look at it. Greenlaw hurts. We're going to get into that. Hufanga expected, Ward expected, more. That's just a joke as far as money. That's drunk day one money. Aaron Banks, the Packers, that's drunk day one money. Elijah Mitchell was always hurt. Doesn't matter. Juszczyk, I knew, was getting released, so that doesn't hurt. So the only one really that hurts that I didn't know was Dre Greenlaw. And Dre Greenlaw happened because, and I said this morning on the show, Ernest Jones gets $12 million in Seattle. Bolton got $15 million in Kansas City. Jamien Sherwood, who was a guy that maybe the Niners could have got, but he got $15 million each a season from, he got 45, got $15 million a season for the Jets. And when I saw those three guys get what they got, because the budget for the 49ers was about 8 for Greenlaw, and you saw that money, and it goes back to Jed. Jed York is not drawing the line at Brock Purdy. Jed York is drawing the line at saying, okay, we have this emotional buy. And a year ago, they would have signed Dre Greenlaw. But this year, they're not going to budget 8 and go to 15. That's just not what they're going to do anymore. So we can talk all about that. And there's a big reason why. I'm going to tell you about it in just a second. But that is day one for the 49ers. Mass exodus. And a lot of people are going to make a ton about this, because even though we knew Hufanga and knew Ward and knew Moore and knew Banks and knew all these kind of guys, and we knew Juice was going to get released, that's a lot of talent walking out the door for the 49ers. And the question from me to you is, what does it mean to you? Does this mean this is a rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it? But to me, that's just a bunch of guys. And again, Moore doesn't hurt to me. Banks doesn't hurt to me. Mitchell doesn't hurt to me. Ward, I knew it, but still. Hufanga, I knew wasn't going to, because that's Mustafa's position. So Hufanga, yeah, that's a lot of money. I think Mustafa can be as good. The linebacker thing is going to be tough because what you're probably going to have to do now, because most of the good linebackers are gone, maybe an Eric Kendricks who's 33 years old and he's not Dre Greenlaw in any way, shape, or form. And then what you're going to have to do is draft a young linebacker and hope, because there's just not a lot in the free agency market anymore with linebacker. So Dre Greenlaw is the one that really, really, really hurts. So that's how we're starting the free agency special for the 49ers. Let me make sure that I say roll call and say hello to everybody. Let me hit that up really, really quickly. Oh, here we go. I don't know why that wasn't coming up right away. Good. I should say good morning. What is it? We're like 12 hours from 7:44 in the PM. We usually are around here at 7:44 in the AM. Hurley bro, it's good to see you, Hurley bird. Miguel is here. Baba Booey. Steve, Enrique, great to see you. Vernon, a lot of people making the trip. Very nice. Jason, good to see you. Mike, good afternoon, good night, good morning, good evening. Skills, who we didn't see a lot this morning, so it's great to do 2 shows in one day. Bill M is here. Great to see you. If you're new to the community, please let us know. Hi, Harry Johnson. It's not so early in Arizona, so you can make it. I like it. Let's see who else is here. Hi, Ryan D. Let's go. Good morning. That is a beautiful sunset right there. Joshua Blevins. It is very nice to see you, Joshua, my friend. Ruthless mindset with the 49ers. We'll discuss what exactly that means. I was going to pop that up there. Thank you very much. Keeping the faith this year. That's going to be tested right now as far as keeping the faith. Ian or Ian, it depends on how you do it. Ian, I'm going to call it. If it's Ian, you tell me, because Ian Eagle, Ian Furness is a friend of mine. Ian Fitzsimmons is a friend of mine, so I have Ians and Ians in my life. John, the wise Tushy. I like that, and I don't think I've seen you before, so welcome to you. D-Lou22, nice. Jason, good to see you, my friend. Andrew, really, we're seeing a lot of new names in here. I'm totally digging it. Very, very nice. So anyway, keep the comments coming on the comments line. I just want to throw a few things out, but my overriding question to you is, what are the Niners doing? I'm not mad, because here's the reason why this is happening. Let me give you a little insight into this, okay? So, very, very cool, man. Andrew in Las Vegas. I was just on with Vegas Sports and Information Network. That's why I was late today. Originally from Gilroy. Missed your KNBR days. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and thanks for making the time. By the way, real quick, I forgot to do this because I'm just so jacked to start talking about day one. John Lund Unleashed. Please make sure you subscribe. Tell all your friends we're on YouTube. Get in the chat room. Please hit the thumbs up. That helps the algorithm. And also, make sure you have your alerts on, because you have your alerts on, then you knew that we were going to do a show tonight, not just the 8 a.m. show that we always do. So make sure you do that. Also, we're on Bay Area Sports Collective. Make sure that you are subscribing on Bay Area Sports Collective, because I'm on there, Tom Tolbert, and Polly Mack with Creative Tony. So those 3 shows so far. And I'm sure we'll add more and more things to Bay Area Sports Collective, but please make sure you subscribe there. So on YouTube, Bay Area Sports Collective, on YouTube, John Lund Unleashed. We're on Facebook. We're on X at John Lund Radio, on Instagram tonight at John Lund Radio. Let me make sure I hit my I did. Okay. There's some people over on Instagram. Very, very nice. Nice to see the Instagram folks tonight. So anyway, that's what's going on as far as that goes. I want to make sure that we are hitting that up. And for all things Unleashed, go to johnlundunleashed.com. You want to cry? Should we just start with this? That's sad. I just wanted to show that one time. And I'm sorry that I did it, because it makes people mad. Let me pop this up one more time. Again, Greenlaw out, Hufanga out, Ward out, Jalen Moore, Aaron Banks, Elijah Mitchell, Juice released, maybe Brandon Ayuk to Cleveland. Now there's some rumors out there. Luke Farrell, we knew, and he's a blocker, big guy, but he's going to be a move tight end that's going to take the place of Kyle Juszczyk and be a better blocker. I don't dislike Juice. It's just he was doing less and less. He wasn't in the pass game a whole lot, even though he was wide open. He's not a great bulldozer blocker, and they needed somebody better, and the run game wasn't good. But they've got a hole at left guard now they've got to worry about. I'm not a Brendel guy. There's not a lot of great centers out there. So we're going to get into it in a minute in terms of, what exactly we're thinking about in terms of who is out there and who is left, because the cupboard is not bare. And I just want to make one thing clear for everyone panicking. And then I'm going to tell you the reason why all this happened. Jalen Moore is not a big loss at 2 years and $30 million. He was their swing tackle. You're not paying that. Aaron Banks, it's a joke for him to be paid 4 years and $77 million. That's just because the salary cap has gone up so much. Ward, we knew, was going to leave because his wife just couldn't handle it here. They do need a third corner. DJ Reed went to the Jets, and they were never going to pay that. Or excuse me, went to the Lions. played for the Jets last year, played for Saul, was an original draft pick of the 49ers. So that would have been a nice pickup, but that wasn't going to happen. Just everybody's too expensive. So from this point, I'm not saying today was a good day, but what I am saying is that when we pop up this right here, Jed York, now he wouldn't have kept Mitchell. He wouldn't have kept Banks at that number. Wouldn't have kept Moore. Couldn't have kept Ward. Hufanga might have been something for that 3 and 45 that they would have stretched for. Although, like I said, Mustafa's going to play in that stead, and I think he's fine. But I do think they need a free safety. Dre Greenlaw hurts, and I think in past years, because everyone's freaking out, going, "Oh, is this what Jed meant?" Jed would still release 𝐬𝐭 𝐬𝐿. They almost did last year. Mitchell, whether Jed was tightening the belt or not, Mitchell wasn't going to be back at that number. Banks, Moore, those guys weren't going to be back at that number. Ward, his wife has PTSD, and he told us in the locker room clean out that she can't come back to California, so that's not it. Hufanga, even if they were free spending, I don't think, again, with Mustafa, I don't think he would have come back. Dre Greenlaw is the only one on that list where you go, damn, that we that we thought maybe. But as I told you yesterday, I told you this morning, once those 3 linebackers signed in double digits, like $12 to $15 million in Ernest Jones, Nick Bolton, and Jamie and Sherwood, I knew Greenlaw wasn't coming back because I knew the number that they had slotted for him. And Jed York said, we're not going to do this emotional stuff anymore. And so Dre Greenlaw's a Denver Bronco. And it's not great because let's look who replaces those guys, all right? 𝐬𝐭 𝐬𝐿, that's going to be Luke Farrell. Elijah Mitchell, that's already on the roster. Hopefully CMC is fine. But that's going to be behind him because I don't think Jordan Mason's coming back either. Mason's restricted, and I don't think the 49ers are not going to go out of their way. And I think there's a team that needs a running back. They're going to go after Jordan Mason after this first wave of free agency. Mitchell wasn't going to be a guy that's going to be replaced, though. Isaac Guerrero will do that. Banks, that's an open spot. Could be Ben Barch or somebody they draft. Jalen Moore's a swing tackle. There's no way you're giving him $15 million. I guess what I'm saying is let's not panic yet. Ward was expected. They weren't going to give him 3 and 60. That's going to be Renardo Green, hopefully a veteran corner that they can pick up. Because what I'd like to see is a veteran corner opposite Demo Lenore, and then you can bring Renardo Green on the field and then move Demo into the slot for passing downs. Hufanga is going to be Mustafa. Greenlaw, there's no replacement. If I was a betting man, I'd say maybe they revisit Eric Kendricks at 33, who originally agreed to terms with the 49ers last offseason and then went to Dallas. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went back in and said, hey, Eric Kendricks, or if there's somebody that Saleh likes out there, but somebody that's going to be cheaper, and then they're going to draft a linebacker. What Greenlaw does and his loss does is it forces you to look at linebackers earlier than you would have liked because there's not a great linebacker out there that's going to fit the 49ers. And so what they may have to do here is they may, not in the first round, I don't think they're going first round, but like second, third round, they may have to say, okay, we're going to have to find ourselves a young linebacker. But what you have to do a lot of times in that situation, you play that veteran for a year like a Kendricks, and then that young rookie, which is redundant. That rookie then comes in his second year and is really the full-time guy because the guys I saw last year, D. Winters or Jalen Graham, those guys aren't taking Greenlaw's place. So of the losses to me, Greenlaw's it. Hufanga I knew was gone. Ward I knew was gone. Moore and Banks aren't a loss. Elijah Mitchell's not a loss. 𝐬𝐿 being replaced by Luke Farrell. But I do think the major issue here is what it signifies, and this is the question I want to ask you. They have a last place schedule. The Rams got Devontae Adams. They bring back Matthew Stafford. The Rams are the favorite to me in the division. The 49ers have some work to do. Free agency is not completely over, and I'm going to put a list up there because in the middle of my chalkboard today it says, what now? What? I'm not panicking as much as most. That's a lot of names. That's a lot of talent. But maybe it's because I knew Ward was gone, knew Hufanga was gone. Greenlaw's the one that I thought they might stretch to get back, and in past years they would have. But they just didn't, and that's what he's going to do. They're going to re-sign Brock Purdy. The thing with Ayuk, if that's a real deal, that does surprise me because the problem, I keep alluding to this, but here's the problem and why the 49ers are having to do. Hold on just a second. Hold on. Did I just see a Bosa thing? Is anybody watching that? Because if it's Bosa, I'm not overly excited, to be completely honest with you. And I talked about it this morning why. So let me see. I just saw something Bosa flash in front of my face. Does anybody see that? Let's see. I'm not seeing it. I just saw something flash in front of me. Maybe it was just an old thing. I mean, because I don't know that there's a Bosa here. Just make sure. I was doing a lot of this morning, but I need to make sure that we're not we're not missing something here. Here we go. Both 49ers and Dolphins have made similar offers less than $10 million to Joey Bosa. Well, because I told you, $10 million to me. Oh, here's right here. Okay. That's according to Mike Silver. The 49ers and Dolphins each made offers to free agent edge rusher Joey Bosa. He'd get less than $10 million in either scenario. What's funny about that is I told you this morning, I said the only way I would entertain Joey Bosa is if it was about $10 million with a bunch of incentives. And that's what both of these teams seem to be doing. Miami is where his family lives, and there's no state income tax there. Joey Bosa played in 14 games, but 49.6% of the snaps last year. And he had 14 sacks over the last 3 years, and he hasn't had double-digit sacks since 2021, and he was the 72nd rated edge rusher by Pro Football Focus. He's a rotational player at this point. He's not going to get $20, $30, $40 million. So how important is playing with Nick versus playing in a state that is tax-free, and he might have a longer-term future in Miami than here in the Bay Area. But we'll see. By name, that's it's just like with Jonathan Allen. Great name, not a great player anymore. Joey Bosa, great name, not a great player anymore. Now, could his brother across from him or on the opposite end of him motivate him? Yeah, could. But I wouldn't be in love with that move. But who knows? We'll see. But here's why the 49ers have to do all this stuff. And then I'm going to get back out to the text line and the comments and see what people are saying about stuff. So the reason the 49ers have to do this is not because Jed woke up one day and said, I'm done doing this for a 6-11 team. I spent $344 million. That's part of it. But one of the main parts of it, and this is why I would be surprised if Brandon Ayuk got traded, especially at the low level that because of the injury where they would be doing this. Charvarius Ward just left for the Colts. He's going to count $12 million against the cap this year. Eric Armstead didn't play for the Niners last year. He's still going to count $15 million on the cap this year. Remember, when they do those post-June cuts, then it's spread out the next 2 years. They still owe money to Eric Armstead. Javon Hargrave, who has not signed, at least to my knowledge, to this point, Javon Hargrave is going to have $8 million on the cap not to play for the 49ers. Deebo Samuel is going to have $31 million on the cap not to play for the 49ers. The 49ers have the most cap space of players not playing for them in the NFL. $65 million. $65 million for players in 2025 at this point, and it could be added to, $65 million of players who will not play for the 49ers this year. Won't. And so when you're asking yourself, what the hell, man? Why aren't they spending? Why don't they get these guys back? Because Jed York has spent and spent and spent, and he's looking at this and he's going, wait a minute, we spent $344 million to go 6-11. I have $65 million of dead cap, which is for players who won't even play here next year. So I'm going to keep that game going up, and we're not winning at a high enough level. And I did the comp with Joe Lacob. Joe Lacob paid and paid and paid and paid and paid. And then about 3 years in a row, he went to the play-in game, and he was in 10th place. And he goes, I'm done with this crap. Like, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then they had an opportunity to get Jimmy Butler, and the only way they could get Jimmy Butler was to give him an extension. And Joe Lacob decided, because he's one of the owners that want to win, and not all of them do, Joe Lacob said, you know what, I got an opportunity here. I'll spend the money again. And that's what Jed York will do. Jed York will spend the money, and he's going to spend it on Brock Purdy. They're not going to short Brock Purdy. That's not where the line will be drawn. Like I said, it was drawn at Dre Greenlaw, who a year ago they would have gotten emotional and they would have signed him. I don't think with any of those other players that I popped up there that they would have gotten emotional on these players and they would have signed them. Greenlaw's the one. Hufanga, you've got Mustafa. Ward, it's going to be Renardo Green, and he wasn't going to come back anyway. Moore, that's a joke for that amount of money. Aaron Banks, that's an incredible drunken joke for him to get $4 and $77. I don't know exactly what the contract's going to say. It's not going to say that, but still, it's silly. Elijah Mitchell, he was injured all last year and has always been injured. And we saw Juice coming. And once Luke Farrell got that 3-year deal, he's going to be a move tight end, and he's going to block, and he's going to take Juice's place. So on paper, that looks horrible. I'm not saying it doesn't. And there's talent there. You know, Greenlaw, Hufanga, Ward, those guys are really talented guys. Juice, the last couple of years, hasn't done a lot for the 49ers. I like him in the locker room. I like him as a guy, but he's not a great blocker. And if you're trying to get back to smash mouth football, Juice being your fullback, he's okay. But I think that Luke Farrell is going to help in that regard. But that's a lot of talent to lose. And what it also is telling you is, and I think this is the major part if I'm a 49ers fan, is, am I trying to compete at the highest level? Am I still desperate to win Super Bowls? I still think they are. And I don't buy that Jed York all of a sudden has changed his opinion on wanting to win a Super Bowl at a really high level. But I think what he's thinking is, look, we did this draft thing one time and we were able to nail a bunch of mid-round picks, and we've got to be able to kind of do this. And if you think of the Rams, remember, and this is the biggest problem for the 49ers, is that the Rams won the Super Bowl and then they did this. They kind of tore down a little bit, but they had won a Super Bowl, so you could do that. Seattle did this after they won a Super Bowl. Like, okay, but we won a Super Bowl, and so you had justification to do that. You look at the 49ers, they are in danger of becoming what Harbaugh's teams became, which is really, really, really good teams that became really, really close. They got really close to this thing, and they couldn't get it done. So you can't put them up with the greatest teams, the greatest 49er teams. Close, really good, Hall of really good, but didn't win a Super Bowl. And they still have talent coming back next year. Brock Purdy. They got to work on the offensive and defensive lines at a really high level. They brought back Kevin Gibbons. Doesn't do a lot for me. But their offensive line, Aaron Banks, I knew was going to be gone, but what are you going to do there? Jake Brendel is terrible. He was one of the worst centers in the league as a as a pass blocking center. Well, Brock can't have middle pressure, man. He can't. I think Brendel was like 12th best center in run blocking, which isn't, that's good. But he was terrible against the pass. I think it was like 51st or something. It's like, there aren't 51 centers, are there? He was terrible. One of the worst in the league as far as pass protection. And I can't tell you how many times I looked up and saw him on his butt and Brock's getting mauled. I mean, right up the middle, and they know it. So they've got to fix center. They got to fix the guard. The tackles are just, Trent Williams is going to have to be one more year. McKivitz is going to have to be one more year. Pooney is fine. That's going to be a major deal. They got to get an edge guy. I don't love Joey Bosa, but I could see it, especially if they're offering that kind of money. I don't know if Bosa would go Miami or San Francisco, maybe play with his brother 1 year and then, hopefully have a good year and then move on from that. But as far as the interior, the defensive line, and I don't see them going early in the draft with that. I'd really like him to go somewhere in free agency to get something done there so they don't have to be desperate in the draft. But Kevin Gibbons isn't getting it done. He's like 280, 285 pounds. He got pushed around last year. He's an okay depth piece, but you're not starting him. And so they've got major issues inside. Now they've got to get a linebacker, and I still think they need a free safety, a veteran free safety. Morig of the Raiders went off the board today. Holland, as far as I know, did not. And again, just like this morning, if something is happening that I'm not seeing, you let me know, because it's not like, people are taking the night off. So let's see. That's nothing. Okay. I'll keep it up there. Okay. There's the latest on that. And again, just one more look at this, and then I got out. That's who they lost. Greenlaw, Hufanga, Ward, Moore, Banks, Mitchell, Juszczyk, Luke Farrell, and they did re-sign Kevin Gibbons, which really doesn't do much for me. What say you? All right, let's see what we've got here, what people are saying. I know that they probably talked to Robert Saleh about this and said, look, we're going to try to get Dre Greenlaw back. But I think Robert Saleh saw $15 million going to those other linebackers and we're not going to get him. That's what I said yesterday. That's what I said this morning on the show. I looked at it last night and went, he's not coming back. Once I saw 15 to, I think it was 13 to Ernest Jones, 15 to Nick Bolton, 15 to Jamie Sherwood. I went, he's not coming back. They're just not doing it. He's coming off an Achilles and played 34 snaps. That's the exact thing that Jed York is talking about. He's not, people misconstrued and said, well, they're not going to re-sign Brock. You know what they could have done I know they wouldn't have done this, but Sam Darnold's going to make $30 to $35 million. It's basically in Seattle a 2-year, $55 million deal, and then we'll see. If you didn't love Brock, you could have went out and tried to get Sam Darnold and did what Seattle did. Probably could have gotten a first-round pick for Brock Purdy. I know they didn't ever think about doing that, but if you really wanted to save money, you could have done that. He's 27 years old. I think what Seattle did was really smart. Geno Smith's 34 years old. I think he's a journeyman quarterback. He had a good first year in Seattle, and they went out and they signed Sam Darnold for a reasonable contract as far as quarterbacks are concerned and got a third-round pick out of the Raiders. I think that's a smart move, and you don't often see that, but there's not a guy on the market like Sam Darnold who had the great year that he had last year. So that's interesting. I like Dean Winters too. It's just Miguel. I like him too. It was just he was out of control a lot. He was like a chicken with his head cut off a lot of the year. He was making a lot of mistakes. I love his speed. I don't know that he can take that role full time, but he's probably right now on the roster the guy most suited to do it. But I would not be surprised. In fact, I expect them to sign a veteran for cheap, maybe Kendricks, and they expect him to draft another linebacker because they gave Winters a chance, and he was better as the year went on. But man, at the beginning, I'm with you on that. Geno Smith was terrible against the 49ers. I think he was like 1-4 through a bunch of dumb interceptions. I agree with you there. That's a good point. Darnold's going to make Seattle. Seattle was 10-7. This is what's funny. Seattle lets go of Lockett, who was old for football concerns and injured and small. They trade DK Metcalf because they don't want to pay him $30 million, which that's not a bad idea. Don't pay him $30 million. And they traded Geno Smith, who was 34 and wanted $45 million. And they end up getting Sam Darnold for like 30 or 34 million, who's 7 years younger. And yesterday, everyone's like, what the hell is Seattle doing? And I told you this. Seattle knew what they were doing. They already had a deal with Sam Darnold. They traded Geno Smith knowing Darnold was coming there. They're like, this is going to be easy. So I think the Niners have a plan, and they knew they were going to lose a lot of those guys. It's just that, and we'll hit up on free agency in just a second as far as who's left, because not everybody's gone. And there was a lot of drum. I mean, the Kinlaw signing by Adam Peters, I generally like what Adam Peters has done with the Commanders. How could you not? They're in the NFC Championship game. But there's no other explanation than he helped the 49ers, was the VP of player personnel when he was with the 49ers when Javon Kinlaw was drafted that fateful day. And he's just pounding the table for him again and going, I know he's good. I know he's good. 3 years, $30 million guaranteed for Javon Kinlaw. Just ridiculously drunk spending. And then New England went out and they had the most money at the beginning of the day. And New England, they went out and they did the cardinal sin. Milton Williams, the guy who played well in the Super Bowl for Philadelphia, they made him the highest paid Patriot of all time. Not just defensive player, of all time. Higher than Brady. I mean, it's like, oh my God. And they've got money. I mean, they had the most cap space, but they went out and drunkenly spent it. So there's a fine line between losing all the guys that the 49ers lost today. And I'm not, look, if you're pissed or if you're upset or if you're thinking that they're going in one direction, I can't blame you. I'm just saying it's better than it not spending and letting guys go is a hell of a lot better than what New England did today. I'll tell you that. They're going to have a lot of regret. There's the Juice stuff, but we knew that once they signed a tight end today. And we knew that too, I think, after, Juice last year. It took him a while to say, okay, fine, I'll take that. I'll take the pay cut, but he wasn't happy about it. And so at that point, then Juice, you knew was going to be, especially looking into this year, was going to be a problem. By the way, that was cap space as of this morning. So the Patriots spent a bunch. Khalil Mack went back to the Chargers. Cardinals, by the way, Josh Sweat, 4 years and $76 million. The Commanders, that Kinlaw deal is ridiculous. Seattle went and got Russell Wilson. It looks like the Steelers are close with Aaron Rodgers. Vikings didn't. Oh, no. They went and got Byron Murphy. They kept Byron Murphy, the corner. Jaguars probably did something stupid. I can't think. Oh, they signed. Didn't they sign the tackle Moore? Somebody did. Oh, no, that was the Panthers. Let's see. Cowboys did next to nothing. I think they signed the long snapper. G.J. Reed went to the Lions. I'm just going down free agency money. Geno Smith, a lot of that money is going to be thrown to Geno Smith. Jamie Sherwood, the Jets signed him. Big money. Colts were in the middle there. They signed Charvarius Ward. Rams are in the middle there. They signed Devontae Adams. So, yeah, there's some money thrown around. But at the top, New England threw a bunch of dumb money around today. And so people get all excited about it. And I saw those things, it's got the meme where you're poking something, do something. And you knew that the 49ers weren't going to do a lot. So that's what happened today. All right, let me spin through some of these comments here. Let's see here. What do we got? Questions, comments, thoughts. Give me your thoughts about this whole thing, about what you think. By the way, Warriors are up 68-49. They're smoking it lately, aren't they? They're rolling. We'll get into a bunch of Warrior stuff, and believe me, come playoff time and getting close, we'll get to it. I promise you. It is crazy, man. Let's talk to, there's On the Hook. Niners fans are delusional, living in the past when Eddie D owned the team and spent like there was no tomorrow because he had Bill Walsh, McVay, and no salary cap. Nothing is forever. Yeah, it's just different nowadays. And it's not so much about penalties or anything like that. It's just you get to a point where continuing to spend like they spent, especially when they go 6-11, Jed's thought is, how about this? I'm going to pull back a little bit on these things. We're going to keep a lot of these guys. But again, Hufanga wasn't going to stay. If I go back through that list, Ward was not going to stay. You're not giving Moore a swing tackle, that kind of money. The Packers giving Aaron Banks that kind of money is just the salary cap went up so much that you're throwing around stupid money. And I guarantee you that when you look at the guarantees and how long that contract is for Banks, it's just a couple of years. It's not going to be what it says. Like the agent's, doing a dance, and it's just not going to be that. That's just not how it is. So we'll see. Kinlaw's his guy. I get it. But sometimes you just have to say, look, let's not compound the problem. Robert Sala and the Jets gave Kinlaw 1 year and $7 million last year, and he wasn't very good. And we saw him in the opening game against the 49ers. He wasn't good. And he wasn't good for the 49ers. And Adam, like I said, Adam Peters knows him and still believes that he was a first-round pick and should have been a first-round pick. And physically, Kinlaw looks that way. I mean, Kinlaw looks like that guy, but he just doesn't play like it. And that's fine. Do whatever you want, man. I don't care what Washington does. On D. Winters, he's probably the best player right now, but that's not going to be the way it goes. Like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if an Eric Kendricks came here at 33. He almost did last year. And then there's a lot of good linebackers in this draft, but it takes a while, and especially against the pass. A lot of guys can come forward and stop the run, shed blocks, come forward. This is a passing league. And it's kind of like Devondre Campbell last year. If they know that you can't cover, they're just going to target you time after time after time after time. That's just what they're going to do, especially young linebackers, play action stuff where their step is forward and the tight end goes right behind you. That's what I get nervous with young linebackers. Like Fred Warner, his first year was even good against, that's how Fred is so great, is he was a safety, but I didn't know that he could shed blocks. But it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough. Replacing Dre Greenlaw. All the other guys, they have a general idea of who's going to replace them, or they already have. But there is no replacement for Dre Greenlaw in the house. And that's just how it is. Thanks, Enrique. Yeah, again, Mike Silver reporting Miami and San Francisco under $10 million offers with incentives. I said that this morning. That's the only way I would take Joey Bosa. He is a rotational player at this point of his career. And if he shows the Niners otherwise, that's great. He can sign a 1-year deal and go back out on the market next year. He's not old at 30. It's just with the injuries and the ineffectiveness, the lack of production. In name, he's Joey Bosa. In reality, he's nowhere close to that. And if you took the name away from it, there's no way the 49ers would even be close to signing him. They would never even consider it if his last name wasn't Bosa. That's just a fact. Hi, Troy. What are we doing about the center position? Kyle will not start a rookie, so it has to be a trade or a free agent. Ugh. That's another position that I don't know. It's probably going to be Jake Brendel, and that's nasty. I'll show you the centers. It's just an ugly group. And I agree with you on rookies. Unless he's an elite guy like a Creed Humphrey or something that Kansas City started from day one, you don't necessarily want your center with the play calling, the line adjustment duties. Drew Dahlman went to the Bears, and it wasn't an outrageous offer. But again, with where the 49ers are, it ended up being 3 and 42, I think, which isn't crazy. I was hearing 18 to 20. Anybody else on this list, I'm just not a fan. Ryan Kelly's a veteran. He was signed. I forgot where he signed, but he signed somewhere. I don't think Josh Myers signed somewhere. I'm not a big fan of his. And then all those other guys are just journeyman guys, Corbett and Bozeman and all the. Evan Brown signed again with the Cardinals. There's not a center on that list that does anything for me outside of Dahlman, who I really like, but realized early in the process that they weren't going to be able to get him. So there's nobody there that, to me, and you bring up a great point about a rookie. No, people don't want to start a rookie center. There's a kid at Georgia named Jared Wilson. He ran like a 4.8 something at the combine, super athletic. He's like 6'4", 310, quick, big. I love him. If he'd be around in the third round for the 49ers, that would be something really, really cool. But you want to start a rookie center next to a second-year guard, next to maybe a young guard? I think there's a couple of guards in free agency. In fact, let me go here. Let me do this. Let me share my screen with you sweet, clean people. And I'll give you a little bit of what's left. Let's do a little what's left, shall we? Let's see here. I do it on PFF. Where is that? Oh, here we go. PFF. Yeah, here we go. So this is, as I'm sharing the screen with you, DK now a Steeler. So this is what's left. Quarterbacks, Darnold to Seattle, Fields to the Jets. Rodgers looks like he's going to the Steelers. Russell Wilson, I heard, maybe to the Giants. Jameis Winston's a guy that had been mentioned with the 49ers today. Daniel Jones, either Colts or Vikings. Haven't heard anything on the rest of those guys. Running back-wise, Aaron Jones. Najee Harris is going to the Chargers, it sounds like. Look at Nick Chubb because of the injuries. Man, he was good at one point. Javonte Williams coming off major injuries. I would also put Mason, even though Mason's restricted. Other than, I'd put him on that list probably third behind Harrison Jones. I mean, he's really good. So restricted wise, if you were looking at the 49ers right now, knowing that they can't spend money and aren't going to spend money, I'd sign Mason to a deal, to a restricted free agent deal right now. And they're not going to match anything decent. Godwin, as far as receivers go, the 49ers need a veteran receiver because I just don't trust a rookie to take the place of Ayuk. And if they move Ayuk, and there's a report that maybe Cleveland is looking at him, which blows my mind. So I'm making sure that I'm not missing anything in this whole thing. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't see anything. Let's see. Okay. But as far as receivers are concerned, Cooper would be a guy. Diggs is no way. Hopkins, I think, is retiring. Keenan Allen is slower than I am. Mike Williams is always hurt. Elijah Moore is an interesting name. Hardman, Scantling, no. Cooks is the guy. I'm just telling you, I've heard things. Stockton guy, good speed, veteran. He could replace Ayuk in the short term. Nobody else on that list does anything for me. But, I could be wrong. Tight end wise, again, they signed the kid from Jacksonville. He's going to be more of a blocker. None of those guys on that list do anything for me, and it's a really good draft for tight end, so I don't expect him to do anything. Offensive tackle wise, I don't see it. There's Jalen Moore, 2 and 30. Interior offensive lineman. Okay, Minnesota was Ryan Kelly. That's right. Josh Myers is still out there. I'm not a huge fan. Will Freeze is a guy that Seattle was after. Now, the interior right here, Tevin Jenkins, both guards in Chicago are out. They got Joe Thuney there, and they got Jonah Jackson from the Rams. Plus, they signed Dahlman, so their interior is totally different. Tevin Jenkins is a guy who's been hurt a lot, but he's a young guy at only 27. Becton, I don't think, moves well enough. James Daniel. There's two guys right in the middle of that guard list that could take over for Aaron Banks, make far less money, and be far better players. Jenkins has been hurt a lot. James Daniel's coming off a Achilles, so would that scare the 49ers away? It might, but those are two guys that I would keep an eye on. Tomlinson's not coming back. There's nobody else in there that I like. Brunskill was decent with the Niners at one point. Edge rusher-wise, Joey Bosa again, but real quick, Khalil Mack, that one hurt because I thought maybe the Niners, because they had showed interest before, but he goes back. He was a top 5 PFF edge rusher this year, was Mack. So Mack, Sweat, Reddick, Kuntz, all those guys are off the board. Zadarius Smith just got released by the Lions. He stunk. Chase Young went back to the Saints. There's Bosa. Azeez Ojulari is a guy that is interesting. He's had some success with the Giants. Really young guy. He's only 25. That's an interesting name to me. There's Charles Omenihu, who can play inside and outside. What else do we have? Graham is older. None of those other names do anything for me. Again, you can see that interior defensive line. This is where the Niners need to do something here. Milton Williams, that's the guy that signed with New England for 104. Just ridiculous money, but New England had the money. Hargrave is not going to be here. Allen is a great name, much like Bosa, but doesn't play that way anymore. Campbell's a veteran. Collins got released by the Niners or will be soon. Gibbons re-signed by the Niners. What else is on that list? Nothing. It's not. See, they're going to have to draft. There's 24. I've told you this before. There's 24 starter grades, according to Daniel Jeremiah in the draft. They're going to have to go draft here because I liked Poona Ford a lot, but the Rams gave him 3 and 30, and the Niners were never going to do that. Poona Ford had a great year last year. The one name I would like is not Allen on that list. Somebody was stupid enough to give Grady Jarrett 3 and 43. That was the Bears. He didn't have a good year last year. So that was name only. Kinlaw, look at that ridiculous contract. 3 and 45 at 30 guaranteed. That's a silly contract. Nobody else really on that list that you like. Anybody from that list? Hargrave's not coming here. Not a great list. They got to get somebody, though. They got to get a veteran. That was a bummer this morning when DJ Jones re-signed with Denver, 3 and 39, but the 49ers were going to do that. I like Sebastian Joseph Day. He goes back to the Titans. So, yeah, it's not a good day for the Niners because not only have the guys that they lost themselves, and this is the linebacker market I was telling you about. When Jones, Sherwood, those guys went back, Bolton's the other one. When they got those deals last night, you're like, that's not good. And then you look at Robert Spillane, who comes over from Vegas, and he got 3 and 37 before Dre signed. And I went, well, Dre's better than him, even coming off an Achilles. So then he gets 3 and 35. Kendricks is the guy. Dotson was in Seattle for the first half of last year, the former Bill. He was terrible, especially against the run. So I can't see them. Jerome Baker, same thing. He was in Seattle. They got rid of him. Not a lot of great linebackers. That's what I'm saying. Krug always brings up Willie Gay Jr.'s name. He's super fast, but I don't know about him. Corner-wise, I think they could use a veteran. There's DJ Reed at the top. Thought maybe there was an outside chance because he played with the Jets. Nope. Ward to Indy, as we said. Byron Murphy, since this has been printed or updated, he re-signed with Minnesota at 3 and $66. Carlton Davis, again, stupid money from New England. Asante Samuel Jr. is a guy that I've heard as a name. Darius Slay went to Pittsburgh, by the way. I need to refresh this list. Darius Slay went to Pittsburgh. Nate Hobbs, Green Bay. Adebo was a guy that I really liked for the 49ers. He's been hurt up and down, but 3 and 54 is way too high. He's been injured too much. And that's it. The rest of the guys, Shaquille Griffin, he's been done for a long time. The safeties are the ones. Cam Bynum, that one stinks because I thought maybe the Niners, but again, 4 and 60 with Indy, never going to happen. Hafunga, as we've talked about, 3 and up to $45 million. Morig, I thought was a guy maybe because he's more of a free safety, which is what they need. Holland at the top of that list, I really like. And I know he didn't have a good year last year, but he's only 25 years old. He's from the Bay Area, went to Oregon, but he probably is going to be far too expensive for the 49ers. Chin is more of a strong safety. He signed with the Raiders. So that's the safety situation. So there you go. That's who's left. Anybody on that list do anything for you? Like I said, linebacker wise, that's a bummer because there's just nobody there. And you're going to have to get a veteran guy and then a young guy. Or maybe somebody, people have mentioned Winters. I didn't like what he did. A couple of interior offensive linemen that could make some sense for the 49ers. They might be able to fill that hole before the draft. Tight end wise, like I said, they pick up the kid from Jacksonville, but he's going to be a move tight end, and he's going to be more of a blocker than anything else. Receiver wise, if they move Ayuk, even if they don't, they need a veteran until he comes back. Cooper's on that list. That's an interesting one. And Brandon Cooks is on that list. Think about that one. Running back wise, they'll be fine. Quarterback wise, they need a backup. I wouldn't be shocked if they look now. Zach Wilson just signed with who did he sign with? Miami. Zach Wilson signed with Miami. I wouldn't be shocked if they looked at Mac Jones. I don't love it, but I'm just telling you, they liked him coming out of the draft. So there you go. There's a quick look at free agency, who has signed and who could possibly be still available for the 49ers. And it's not a lovely bunch. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not a lovely bunch, and I'm sure you can tell. You don't need me to tell you that. It's not a great group. So there you go. Give me your thoughts. I'll go out to the chat line again, and let's see what's going on as far as everybody is concerned. And again, thanks for joining us. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube. So make sure that you subscribe to both. You're watching on X tonight. Thank you so much. At John Lund Radio, and Instagram at John Lund Radio. Facebook as well. You can be my friend on Facebook. I'll tie a pork chop around my neck and we can be friends. So we can do that. Let me see what everybody's saying now that you've seen the list of availables. And here's the thing. Free agency wasn't great before. And now most people are like, ooh, there's not a whole lot left. But there's always something. Let's see. Chet hired a forensic accountant. He's just saying, look, well, I'll pay certain guys, but he's just not going to do it. A lot of people are saying that. Thank God the juices. He just wasn't the blocker, and they weren't using him in the pass game a whole lot. And I like the guy, but he was definitely like, rims on a, like a 68 Chevy. It's like, it's really cool, but it's not necessary. So I don't think that. Samuel Jr. I mean, look, I always tell you how flawed free agents are in general. They're usually too old, too expensive, too this, too that. And now you're down to these guys. It's not it's not like you can't find somebody who could help, but it's going to be few and far between. And at this point, what I'm thinking is maybe the interior of the offensive line, so you don't have to draft a guard early. If Jenkins or Daniels, that could be somebody that they could fill something in. Bosa's an interesting one, but remember, I just want you to know that it's a Bosa, and it's exciting, but he's a rotational player, so that would be okay for a certain amount, as long as you're saying to yourself, okay, we realize, I've mentioned probably Cooks too much, but I'm just telling you that the expectation level for what people are thinking the Niners would be thinking, and maybe it's now lowered because we saw what today was, but I've just heard that name a lot. So I'm just saying, I wouldn't be if they're going to get something decent from Cleveland, maybe Cleveland's desperate for Ayuk, but I would think that it's going to be like a third or a fourth round pick. And I know Jed's pissed off, but what are you going to do? Look, I love this guy. I just think that he's going to be too expensive, Nick J. And I would hope maybe the Niners would, but I've heard Seattle and his name together. So maybe, but if he's, let's put it this way, he's better than Aaron Banks, and Aaron Banks got 4 and 77, and the 49ers are not throwing money like that at him. So 4 and 77 million, if they're thinking that, ugh, that's just, I just don't see it. Let's see. Steve says, if Miami offers Joey Bosa the same money, it's higher than what the Niners offer. Yeah, 13.3%. That's, I don't know anything about Joey Bosa. I don't know how badly he wants to play with Nick. But logic would tell you on the surface, Miami has no salary cap space. In fact, this morning they were negative in salary cap space. Now you can change that. But I think Miami could say, look, no state income tax. You're from down here. Your family's down here. Your dad, John, played for the Dolphins. Come down here, and then if he's good for the Dolphins, they'd re-sign him. They would have money after this year. The Niners, I think, are just going 1 year on Bosa, and then unless he's just outstanding, but then if he's outstanding, then they wouldn't have the money to re-sign him. So he's a one and done, Joey, I think, if he would sign with the 49ers. And he hasn't been that effective, and I've maybe beaten that horse too much. The 14 sacks in 3 years, the 49.6% of the snaps, the 55% of the games played over his last 3 years, all those kind of things. That screams to me that the 49ers wouldn't want anything to do with him. The 49ers have said they want to get younger, less expensive. I mean, that's what we've seen. Joey Bosa's 30 years old. And at some point he is going to be expensive, and I just don't see it. And they may have to get rid of Leonard Floyd to bring in Joey Bosa. And I'm not so sure that he's even better than him. So that would be an issue for me. Hi, Bill M. Thank you for the super, my friend. When did the 49ers become the San Francisco Giants? Look around. $15 million is becoming a baseline salary. If you don't like it, beep off and sit down. That's what you're saying. They're saying, I think that Jet has just come to a point after spending the $344 million. I would more liken it to, rather than the Giants, Bill M. Let me put that back up there. Bill, what I would liken it to maybe is more than the Warriors, where Joe Lacob spent. And then all of a sudden he looked up and he said, damn, we're playing in the play-in game for the third straight year. This is not a championship contending team. What am I doing? And then when he had an opportunity to get Butler, and the only way to be relevant again was to give him a 2-year extension at that money, then he said, okay, I'll spend again because I think this might work. And I think that's what Jed York is going to do. He's going to pull back on a lot of this stuff. He's going to see if John and Cal can perform some magic again in the draft like they did when they got Warner in the third and Afunga in the fifth, and Kittle in the fifth, and Brock in the seventh, and DJ Jones, and on down the line, all these guys, Dre Greenlaw. He's gonna see what this team is all about. It's not that he doesn't want to spend or won't. It's not that he's lost the desire to win a Super Bowl, which was mentioned in that article, which is not accurate. What he's looking at is, I spent $344 million on a team that went 6-11. I didn't get ROI, return on investment. So let's just see what this team is right now, and we'll see where we stand. Where they stand right now is, despite the fact that that a lot of the talent that left today is not critical talent, which is why it's not here anymore, it's still talent nonetheless. And I think that's where 49ers looking at this thing going, wait a minute. Because I know this, and this is where I would be frustrated with you, and I don't blame Jed, but I'm just telling you this is the direction they're going. Is it a year ago when the linebacker market started to grow like it did last night, and the number was going up, Jed would have approved a 3 and 35 for Dre Greenlaw. He would have a year ago. There's no question in my mind. Afunga still would have been gone because they have Mustafa. Ward still would have been gone because his wife didn't want to come back here because of the trauma that they had off the field. They weren't going to pay Aaron Banks 4 and 77 for the very reason that they didn't pay. What did McGlinchey get from Denver? 5 and 82 or something silly like that. He hasn't lived up to it. They weren't going to give Jalen Moore, whether it was this year or last year, $2 and $30 million. That's a complete joke. He's not very good. He's a swing tackle. And when Kansas City plays him at left tackle, protect the best quarterback in football and Patrick Mahomes, they're going to find out. I mean, it's like, whoa, we made a mistake. That's what day one is about. You're going to get some day one guys today. They're going to be very, very, very good. But it's not a guarantee that Dre Greenlaw is going to be great coming off an Achilles injury and 34 snaps last year. I mean, I'm bummed that he's gone because I love the guy, but it's not a guarantee. And at 3 and 35, when they originally, I know this for a fact, they originally told Dre Greenlaw, hey, man, you're coming off an Achilles. Let's do a 1-year make good at like 10. And he's like, no. And once we saw the linebacker deals yesterday, we knew he wasn't coming back. And then as far as 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿, a wonderful name, an amazing guy, but He's not a great blocker. They've got to go back to run the football between the tackles. They don't use him hardly at all in the run game. And the couple times that he ran the ball last year, because he runs it so few, he fumbled the football. So goes back to the old adage, what would you say you do here? And they saved $6 million by letting him go. So I'm not pissed that they let him go, but cumulatively, if you look at all the guys that they let go today, it's a shock. But I wouldn't call it the Giants, to go back to your original thought. I wouldn't call it the Giants, because the Giants never do. The Warriors did and pulled back, and then they jumped back in when they felt there was an opportunity. I think the Niners will do the same thing, but I think they're looking at it going, we spent all this money. We haven't won the elusive Super Bowl. We're 6-11 last year. Let's see if these guys can get me some younger players, and then I'll build back around these guys. But again, if you look at the list, Greenlaw's a loss. Hufanga is Mustafa. Ward is Renardo Green. Moore was a swing tackle. Banks is a massive overpay. Mitchell was never active last year and has been injured really more than he's played since his rookie year when he had the 925 yards rushing. And 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿 is a great name, but no longer is worth what he was getting paid, and they already replaced him with the guy that's coming, which is Luke Farrell, the tight end out of Jacksonville. He's a blocking tight end, not a receiver. He's going to be a move tight end in the run game, and he's going to replace what Kyle Juszczyk did. So I'm not trying to defend the 49ers in this way, but what I'm saying is that's a lot of guys to lose. But the way that Ward performed last year, and again, Hufanga's hurt all the time, they're not going to pay those kind of guys. Greenlaw's coming off a major injury. Banks is not worth that money. Mitchell's irrelevant on this team. So, look, it's a lot, and it's pretty shocking to see all those guys walk out the door for the 49ers. And so people are going to draw conclusions that they don't want to win or they're rebuilding or anything like that. And there's a couple of guys in there, but I don't think Juice is a critical loss. I don't think Jalen Moore is a critical loss. I don't think Aaron Banks is a critical loss. I don't think Elijah Mitchell is a critical loss. I don't think so. Dre Greenlaw is the only one on that list where you go, damn, I wish they could have kept him. And Jed York a year ago would have kept him. But this year he's like, I'm not going to jump into that game anymore. So you can dislike him for that. I totally get it. You're a fan going, dude, come on. It's the NFL. You got plenty of money. And I can't fight you on that, but that's what he's just decided to do. Other than Greenlaw, I'm not upset at anybody on that list. I'm upset we didn't try to get anyone who's as good like DJ Reed. That's where I would be, is that there was a few guys that signed today, and we went over the list just a minute ago of who's left. And if you missed it, we'll go back. You can go back now, or you can go back when I post the notes for the show, and you can click on whatever you want. But yeah, that's, I guess. But day one, again, I'm watching a bunch of drunk people give, Kinlaw $30 million guaranteed, and Aaron Banks $77 million, and Dan Moore a bunch of money, who's an average to below average offensive tackle that I think Carolina got or Tennessee got from Pittsburgh. There was their typical. The Patriots did a bunch of drunk signings today. The really good teams lay out on day number one unless they get some deals. Like Elijah Mitchell to the Chiefs for $3.5 million is a worthwhile venture for Kansas City, and that's a good team. So I have no issue with that if I'm Kansas City. But thinking that Jalen Moore is going to be your starting left tackle at 2 years and $30 million when he has to protect the blind side of Patrick Mahomes, good luck with that. That's just all I'm saying. Good luck with that. That's not a great one. We need to build through the draft and get younger, get back on track. And we got an easy season, best time to do it. They do have a last place schedule. I mean, that's where I am in terms of, look, everything comes back to, for me, it comes back to the draft. And that's what Philly did. Philly went out and they needed defensive backs. They went out and got 2 corners. The year before that, they got Jalen Carter. They went out and they did a great job in getting Barkley. They went out and did a great job getting A.J. Brown. But, they got Devontae Smith through the draft. In the last 3 or 4 years for Philadelphia, they have bombed the draft. They've absolutely nailed it. Now they lose Josh Sweat. They lose Milton Williams. They lose guys like that. So, yeah, when you're the Super Bowl champ, everybody thinks there's some sort of a residual effect that because you won the Super Bowl, you're going to bring that stench along with you and be like, oh, you're going to teach all our guys how to win it. It doesn't happen. Every single year, teams overpay for guys who are on Super Bowl teams, and they don't bring some kind of magical pixie dust with them. Milton Williams will not bring that to the Patriots. Josh Sweat will not bring that to the Cardinals. They just got paid a bunch of boatload of money because they played well, especially in Sweat's case. He played great in the Super Bowl. He's been an okay player, but he's 4-76. That's where in a couple of years, teams are just going to go, well, I got to undo that deal. And that's what Jed is trying not to do. I'm not defending the 49ers in this case, it's just, I'm with you. I'm not overly concerned about the guys that they lost because that's an overpay if you keep them. Banks, you weren't going to keep. Moore, you weren't going to keep. Hufanga, you've already got a guy in his place. Ward was never going to come back with the situation that was off the field. It's Dre Greenlaw. Dre Greenlaw, they would have re-signed a year ago, and they would have went to the number. So I really like Elijah Mitchell, but I've told you the story, and I told it this morning. His agent from day one, he got hurt his rookie year, and the Niners doctors went through it with him and said he can play, and his agent said no, he can't. He's going to look out for himself. And the Niners were like, this is his rookie year. He's not in his free agent year. So they've been doing it since his rookie year, and they were not happy with Elijah Mitchell last year when he shut it down. They were like, dude, what? Like hamstring injury, I think that was, or groin or hamstring, whatever it was. And then it was like, no, I'm shutting it down for the year. Well, he's going into free agency. So he wanted to shut it down and get healthy. He parlayed that into a whopping $3 million deal, which to me and you was big, but not so great. Hey, Skills. Let's see here. What else do we got? So just general thought. Now that the 49ers, and I think we've established, I think we know, I think we're smart in this room, that they didn't lose the best of the best, but still what it indicates to let all those guys go and to not, as some people have said in the chat room tonight, to not go out and sign somebody, a major guy on day number one. And I know why they didn't, but where do you think the Niners are? Now, I was just on a show in Vegas at Vegas Sports and Information Network, and they just asked me that very question. So what are the Niners doing? Are they rebuilding? No. Because if they were rebuilding, to be honest, Kyle Shanahan is not a rebuilding kind of a coach. He would probably want to go, you know what, let me move on. John Lynch is only here for one reason. John Lynch has a goal to win a Super Bowl with the 49ers. And the minute John Lynch were to win said Super Bowl, if he would, he'd be off the Fox making $25 million a year to be a broadcaster because he's a damn good broadcaster. He doesn't need to be beating the bushes as a scout and doing all these kind of things. Being a broadcaster, not in my case because I work so hard, but being a broadcaster is a lot easier than being an NFL general manager. So he doesn't need to do this. He has enough money for the rest of his life. He's fine, but he has a goal of wanting to win a Super Bowl. So if Jed York had made an indication to John and Kyle, I'm not in it to win it. The next day, Kyle would be like, well, then I need to go somewhere else. You can trade me. You can get something for me, but I need to go somewhere else. And John Lynch would be doing TV. So I'm not buying that there isn't this burning desire to win. I just think they're trying to do it in a different way. So that would be my answer to that question. What do you think? Hi, Martin. Good to see you. The replacement is already on the roster. Luke Farrell. Oops, I hit the wrong one. Luke Farrell is going to be the replacement for 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐷𝐿. He was signed today from the Jags for $3 and $20.5 million. He's a move tight end. He's a very good blocker. He's not going to be the savior for George Kittle. I still think it's a really deep draft for tight ends. A lot of good tight ends who can catch the football, but not a lot of great blocking tight ends, which is pretty much the case in NCAA football right now and college football right now. They don't have a lot of great blockers, but there's some good receivers. So what can happen is they're going to draft a receiving tight end at some point in the mid-rounds, and then they're going to have this Luke Farrell guy be the move tight end and the blocker for what Kyle Juszczyk used to do for a lot cheaper, I think, because they're going to save about $6 million by letting Juszczyk go. And we should have known that the writing on the wall last year because they had him take a pay cut, and there was rumors it was going to happen again. And then once they signed Luke Farrell, in fact, I tweeted this out in parentheses. I said, juice is gone when that happened. So that's going to be the replacement, the kid that they just signed from Jacksonville today for their big signing. Hi, Chuck. The mass exodus equals draft capital for next year. That's one thing that we have not talked about is, and I don't, Mayoko and those guys will send out, and David Lombardi's and those kind of guys are going to send out what the formula is. But yeah, those mid rounds that the 49ers are so good at, they're going to get a couple of 3s and a 4 and all this kind of stuff. Cause they just, Ward and Greenlaw and Hufanga and all that kind of stuff. They're going to, whatever the formula is, they're going to get a bunch of guys. They're going to get a bunch of picks. So I don't know if that does anything for you. Yeah. That's, that's what I mean is like, you look at that list and you're like, okay, I get it that they lost their starting left guard, but we knew that. But for Green Bay, who's that's a good football team and that's a good organization, for them to be the ones to give him $77 million, and we'll look at the contract. I promise you, and it's not going to be worth that. It's not. But still, it's just like Aaron Banks at any high number is silly. He's just not a very good player. At least he doesn't fit this scheme, and most teams do run some form of his own scheme. And so I don't see it. I don't think he moves well enough for it. I don't think he's good enough for it. I think the entire interior, I mean, Pooney's really good, and the tackles are going to be fine at least for another year, but the left guard and the center needed to be replaced. We know that. And there's no good centers. And once Dahlman signed with Chicago, there's really not any veteran centers. And somebody said this earlier, you don't really want a rookie center starting. So I would probably brace myself for another year of Brendel getting knocked on his ass and middle pressure, but I hope I'm wrong. I'm going to be positive. Stop doing that, Lund. Yeah, I mean, you know what, Richard? There might be somebody on the roster. I mean, they like Ben Bartch. There's a couple of guys. We always assume that they got to go out and get somebody. Maybe their thought process is that person is already here. I don't know, but I liked Aaron Banks when he got drafted. I remember having him on the show. He was a second-round pick. He's from the Bay. I can't remember where he's from. He's from the East Bay somewhere, maybe Hayward. Went to Notre Dame. I mean, he had good credentials. I liked Aaron Banks. He didn't fit, and he didn't get better. Let's do some supers. Hi, Tommy. Do you think Saleh was in line for the head coach? Where are you talking about? Where are you talking about as far as the head coaching job? And as far as Dre Greenlaw, because somebody asked that before, do you think that Saleh's pissed about Dre Greenlaw? El Cerrito, there you go. You're the man. You're the man. You're the man. You're the man. He's from El Cerrito. Robert Saleh knew that this stuff was coming. I mean, I'm telling you, this is not any kind of a surprise. Oh yeah, you reminded me of that. Doris fan 91, Banks over Creed Humphreys. Oh, wouldn't that be nice to have Creed Humphrey right now? He was a second-round pick out of Oklahoma and just came in, and you could just the minute you saw him, like, oh, that looks like a center, because you don't want to have a center as your starter as a rookie, but that dude's a different deal. So, anyway, that's good. Somebody's bringing up a Vince Vaughn movie. This is where and I didn't even put random on the show because we're going to recap everything. But what are we talking about? What are we talking about? Where is that coming from? I need to know. Let's see. What else do we got? What else? So we're dropping the fullback and going tight end sets. Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. I think that what's going to happen, they're not going to have a fullback on the roster, and they're going to have 3 tight ends. They're going to have Kittle. Farrell's a blocking tight end. They're going to draft a receiving tight end. I bet. That would be my thing. We should have known too, if you didn't think Juice was going to get cut. Remember when they were down in Cabo a couple of weeks ago? And I think it was Kittle's wife who went 1, 2, 3 Niners, and Kyle 𝐬𝐿 I was like, yeah, he knew at that point. Drake Nugent, undersized guy. I know that they had him in camp. He went to Michigan. I like Drake Nugent. If I'm wrong, you can tell me. I think he's like 6 foot, like 290 or something like that. It's just, man, that is so undersized nowadays. It's going to be tough. Oh, I see what you're saying, Tommy. Okay, I see what you're saying. Kyle Shanahan's not getting fired. No chance, no way, no how. The thing is, and I was telling somebody this a few minutes ago before I came on the show, when the 49ers are healthy, they go to the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship game every single time with these guys. When they're not, they don't. And so the logic from a guy like Jed York and not paying some of these guys, let me go through that list again. Let me just show you something. And I'm not defending him. This is a fact. Greenlaw, off an injury. Hufanga, always injured. Jalen Moore stinks. Aaron Banks stinks. Overpaid. Elijah Mitchell, always injured. Kyle 𝐬𝐿, older and expensive. So I know that you're upset about losing these guys, especially Greenlaw. But what the Niners are trying to do is they're not just saying we're going to rebuild. That's just way too surface stuff. They're saying that paying all this money, when I just got done, I'm speaking for Jed York here, $344 million, the most in the league last year, and all these guys were hurt last year. I'm not getting return on investment, and these guys are older and they're getting hurt. And I think that it's up to what he's thinking is it's up to the front office to rebuild this thing. They did it once. Kyle and John did it once. They drafted these guys, Debo, 2nd round. Fred Warner, 3rd round. George Kittle, Dre Greenlaw, 5th round. Hufanga, 5th round. All these, DJ Moore, 7th round. Brock Purdy, 7th round. Juwan Jennings, 7th round. So they've done this before. They're able to identify mid and late round guys, and those guys are what? Cheap. That's what it is. And the roster got so top heavy last year that when they had the injuries that they had no depth and no backups because they were paying all these guys who got hurt so much money. And so Jed is looking at this whole thing going, look, we went 6-11. His logic was, I don't see it. I don't see just getting these guys healthy is going to do it for us. If we go back and re-sign all these guys, then they've been hurt. And as much as everyone's going to freak out just based on the amount of players that they lost, Greenlaw's the only one that, to me, as I look at that list, hurts. Hafunga's already been replaced by Mustafa. Ward has already been replaced by Green, even though I think they need another corner. Jalen Moore is a silly signing by Kansas City. Aaron Banks is a silly signing by Green Bay. Mitchell is always hurt. Juszczyk, that was writing on the wall a year ago, and they already replaced him with Luke Farrell. I'm not saying that all these moves are right or best. I'm just saying that there's either a replacement for these guys, or in Moore and Banks' case, those are stupid. That's just drunk day one free agent signing. And everyone, for some reason, not everyone, that's wrong. A lot of people, for some reason, think that NFL free agency is just the thing that's going to solve everyone's issues. And it's quite the opposite most of the time. A couple of these guys, Zach Bond last year and Saquon Barkley, helped the Eagles immensely. But a lot of times in free agency, 2 years later, you're going, damn, that was a stupid signing, Javon Hargrave. That's what happens. They overpay for these guys. We see it every year. The same teams are in the same predicament because what happens is they draft, they develop, they don't re-sign. So then they got a boatload of money because they blew the picks. They didn't re-sign the picks. And then they got all this money. Their team stinks, and they go out and they spend money. And the cycle keeps going on and on and on because they have to spend the money. They spend it on the wrong guys. And as I said, it's flawed players. Most of the time, it's flawed players. There'll be some guys in this class that are really good free agent signings, but the majority of them are going to regret these signings. New England, with all this money that they spent today, are going to regret the signings, and these dudes are going to be off their team in a year or two. Like Green Bay, for example. Aaron Banks in that deal, and we'll have to see how much is guaranteed and how much is up front. And like I tell you all the time, go to Spot Rack or go to overthecap.com, and you'll see by whatever year the thing just explodes, that means the contract's over at that point. And then there's void years after that. It's all screwy money. It's monopoly money. And so when you see Aaron Banks at 4-77, no one's that drunk and stupid. What they're going to do is you're going to look at that deal and it's going to, oh, that's really a 2-year, like Darnold's deal right now. And that's not a stupid deal, but Darnold signed a 3-1-10 on the surface. And the reality of it is, if you look at Darnold's contract, it's like a 2-60. And that's not a bad deal. If you're Seattle and it's like, okay, Darnold had one great year in Minnesota. So let's just see if Darnold's great. And if he is, then we give ourselves a pretty good deal where it's like, what does Darnold get? $36, $37 million a year if they stay for the third year. If not, Seattle can get out after 2 years on the Darnold deal because he did the deal because he was really good that 1 year because he had Kevin O'Connell as his head coach and Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson and Addison and all these kind of guys. And so, you know what? He was just good because he was on a good Minnesota team and he wasn't a good quarterback. But they didn't expose themselves too much in that kind of situation. So we don't know what contracts are. I keep telling you this about Ayuk's contract. It's 3-76. It's not 4-120. He didn't get 30 a year. He got 25.3, which is still a boatload. But that's commiserate with contracts that at the time, not now, because DK Metcalf signed a 5-150, but at that time, McLaurin, Metcalf, Debo, they all signed deals just like that, just a couple of years earlier. And so everyone's freaking out about Ayuk. And a year, like if this had happened, much like if Dre Greenlaw had happened a year ago, they'd have signed him. If Ayuk's situation happened this year, Ayuk would have been gone. There's no question. And right now we're hearing rumors that he could go to Cleveland. But the thing is that you're going to eat another $18 million of dead cap if Ayuk leaves. So you're already eating 31 on Debo. You're already eating 13 million on Ward. You're already eating 15 million on Armstead. You're already eating 8 million on Javon Hargrave. You're going to eat another $18 million just because you're pissed off at Brandon Ayuk's contract. There's personal, there's business. I get it. And then, by the way, riddle me this: who's going to catch the damn ball? I don't know what Ricky Pearsall is. I have no idea. I like Jawan Jennings just fine. The wide receiver free agent list is not really good. And even though receivers, as I say all the time, are a dime a dozen, it's not like they have leverage and teams are figuring that out this year. They should have figured it out last year, but they figured it out this year. There's not a lot of great ones out there, and receivers, as far as coming into the league, they're good, but it might take them a minute. You don't know which receivers are going to be good out of the gate and which receivers are going to take you. Like Jackson Smith-Njigba for Seattle, for example. His first year, he wasn't very good. Last year, got 100 passes out of the slot and was probably the best slot receiver in the league. It just took him a year to kind of figure it out. And now without DK and Lockett, I don't know what he's going to do. A couple more supers. Valen, good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for the fine donation. Really thought with a fourth place schedule and the quarterback for the Super Bowl in our stadium would be the go. Blow it up next season without a Super Bowl, sure, but seems like this is Harbaugh era Jed. Yeah, let me address that. Again, I don't think they're blowing it up and rebuilding. This is not what they're doing. What he's doing is he's putting pressure back on John and Kyle to say, guys, you did this before. And I look at the list. It's a lot of guys, but it's not a lot of guys that I think they were going to keep. But I still get the gist of what you're saying, which is blow it up without a Super Bowl. I'm not sure they're blowing it up. I'm not sure that would be the case. But where you say that it's the Harbaugh era Jed, the one thing I hope is not happening here that some people have intimated, which is they've had success because Jed York realized he knew what he didn't know, which is he's not a football guy. And so when the Jerry Jones of the world get involved, when Mark Davis has gotten involved for the Raiders, when owners at any level in any sport, I should say not any level, professionally, when owners get involved too much professionally, things start to go downhill for an organization. And so when the 49ers got back on track was when Jed York stayed out of the way, when Jed York stayed off social media, when Jed York wasn't apologizing to fans for the performance of the team. He allowed John and Kyle to do their job. Why? Because Kyle Shanahan's been doing this his entire life. He grew up in it. John Lynch has been doing this his entire life. He's a Hall of Fame football player. So these guys are really smart and they know what they're doing. And he said, you know what? I'll keep hands off. But the problem is that when your team goes 6-11 and you spend that kind of money, you feel like you need to stick your nose back in there and say, guys, what am I buying here? What am I spending my money on? Somebody's got to be culpable for this. And that's what he's doing. He's saying, look, you guys have to be responsible for a team that spent the most money in the league last year and finished 6-11. Now, you and I talk about this all the time. There are things called excuses and explanations. Were the injuries last year for the 49ers an excuse or an explanation? For me, they were an explanation. Many people hate when you say that, so automatically they say that it's an excuse. But let's just put it this way, and you know how I feel about ifs. If your team has too many ifs, you're not going to be very good. If Christian McCaffrey, if Ayuk, I'm talking about health. If McCaffrey, if Ayuk, right? If Pearsall is better. If the defensive and offensive lines, especially in the interior, are better. If they can find a guy to replace Dre Greenlaw. If I think they can get a veteran free safety, if they can get another corner, because I like Renardo Green, but I don't want to be forced to start a second-year guy. So I'd like to have another corner, and then Renardo Green comes off the bench, and then Demo moves inside to the slot. If Jake Moody can get his head together. If. Too many ifs, and your team's not going to be very good. So that would be my major problem with it. And he's sticking his head in here going, hey, guys, I spent all this money. I'm not a silent partner, even though I will allow you to do your job. I'm not a silent partner. Tell me what the plan is. And I will reiterate to this because I know everyone's panicking, but the only guy in that list that I think they would have signed a year ago that they didn't sign is Dre. The linebacker number went up when all those guys started to get signed last night. And if this was a year ago, emotionally, they would have signed him. Hufanga, they wouldn't have signed to that number a year ago because of Mustafa. Ward was leaving anyway. Moore and Banks, like I told you, are drunk signings. Mitchell's hurt too much. And Juice is not because they aren't going to spend money crazy anymore. They got Luke Farrell, who probably costs actually more at 3 and 20.25 than Kyle Juszczyk. They wanted better performance out of the position because they've got to go back to being a smash mouth football team. And Kyle Juszczyk doesn't accomplish that. He's a lot to me like Jonathan Allen, who went to visit Minnesota today, the defensive tackle Washington. Great name. I wouldn't be excited if the 49ers signed him. He's not that good. Joey Bosa, same thing. Great name. Wouldn't be excited if the 49ers signed him. That's just kind of how I feel about it. But good. That's a great point, Valen, and thank you so much for the contribution tonight. I really appreciate it. What else do we have today? What else do we have? What else is everybody thinking? Hold on one second. That's what I have today. Look at all that money. So Juice gone, Dre gone, Funga gone, Banks gone, Moore gone. I don't have Ward up there. There's Darnold bottom left going to Seattle. Joey Bosa, we don't know. Jonathan Allen, we don't know. That's what the new tight end Luke Farrell of the 49ers looks like out of Ohio State, if you remember him there. He's definitely more of a blocker. So that's what he looks like with the Jags. Guess I wear 89 here. So that's what it looks like. There we are. What else do we got? Anything else? Anybody got any questions, comments, thoughts on this whole thing. I want to make sure we jumped on tonight and made sure that we had this thing going. By the way, I did pop up. If you guys didn't see it, you can go back when I put the chapters up. I did pop up who's left and who's available. So we did that on the chalkboard, episode 84, just to go through the chalkboard real quick. Episode 84, free agency day 1, mass exodus, only Dre Hurts. I don't know what drink money is. I must have misspelled something. Now what? I showed you NFL free agents, good and bad from day 1 and still out there. I gave you still out there. As far as good and bad from day 1 on a national level, by the way, like I said, there's a lot of drunk teams with the money. Milton Williams, big contract with the Patriots. I don't love it. Josh Sweat gets $4.76. I get it. With the Cardinals, don't love it. Unfortunately, I like what Seattle did by trading Geno Smith and getting Sam Darnold, who's 7 years younger. So I think that was a great move by Seattle. We'll see what happens with DK Metcalf. They need receivers big time there. Other signings I liked. Let me just go back. Let me look at this thing real quick. Hang on one sec. Let me just pop that back up because if you're new, maybe you missed it. Let me see what else I liked and didn't like. Let me share the screen real quick. What else did I not like and did like? Let's see this real quick. Here we go. Darnold, I like I said, Justin Fields, that's a terrible signing. Sorry. I like the guy. He's a great athlete, but he doesn't see the field. I have no real opinion on the running backs. Devontae Adams with the Rams could be really good because Stafford's just really good, and you got Puka Nacua there. By the way, one rumor that's going around is Cooper Kupp is from Washington. He went to Eastern Washington, and he has a family near Seattle. And so a lot of people think that when Cooper Kupp gets released, he goes to Seattle. And so then you'd have Cooper Kupp, Smith, and Jigba, and they'd get a rookie there with Sam Darnold. That could be kind of interesting, and I don't love that from a standpoint of the 49ers. Slayton was a guy that some people thought maybe the Niners would go after, 3-36, and he stays with the Giants. Joshua Palmer, that's a big overpay for me. Mac Hollins, I don't love, whatever. Tight ends, not great ones. Ronnie Stanley, that's a nice signing by Baltimore, 3-60. A lot of times when you see guys get re-signed, that's what I'm talking about. Like the deal for Dan Moore, he's so average. He's just an average tackle, and he gets $482 million because Tennessee's just desperate. New England is desperate. I mean, that's not a horrible contract for Morgan Moses, but the Jets brought him in with the same thought, and he's just not very good. That Jalen Moore contract is awful. Dahlman, that's a nice signing by the Bears, by the way. The Bears have done a great job with their interior defensive line. They got Joe Thuney from Kansas City, who has played out of position at left tackle because of an injury there. And then they picked up Jonah Jackson from the Rams, who was with Detroit the year before. And then they just took Dahlman at 3-42, which isn't an outrageous number. So that's a nice job by what the Bears are doing to fix their interior, their offensive line, which is something that the Niners could have and should have done, but they're not going to spend money. What else? Look at that. Aaron Banks deal. What other deals do I like? Love the Khalil Mack deal. Mack's 34, but he doesn't miss games, and he was the 4th-ranked edge rusher last year, and he's awesome against the run. And he's a guy that you can have outside against the run and inside on passing downs because he's that big and strong. Don't love the Sweat deal. Reddick, who wanted all that money from the Jets, settles for 1-14, but 12 is guaranteed. That's a good signing by Tampa. What else do we have there? Nothing else gets me going. That Milton Williams deal blows my mind. He's not a bad player, but 4-104, they're going to regret that. Grady Jarrett is old. That was a bad signing by the Bears. Jaron Reed, that's not bad. Poona Ford was one of the guys I liked for the Niners. He's not as good as what he played last year, but he was a top 5 defensive tackle according to Pro Football Focus, and he cashes that in at 3-30. The Niners were never going to do that. Wharton is an overpay. He had like 8 or 9 sacks for the Chiefs, but he's like 285 pounds, and I just think he's too small inside. DJ Jones, as we said, hurts. I would have liked to have seen DJ Jones. I think that's a good signing by Denver to keep him, even though it's a little bit of an overpay, but still not bad. He's a nice player. Who else do I like? Anybody else I like there? You know what? I hate saying this, but Ernest Jones is a really good player, and he was with the Rams, then Tennessee. 3-33 is a good deal for him. Sherwood was a guy that I was pounding the table for the Jets. I liked him. Watch Kendricks right there. That's going to be a name. What else do we got? Reed, I would have liked. Ward, that sucks to lose him. Murphy went back to Minnesota for 3-66. Samuel's a guy of the name. Darius Slay went to Pittsburgh. That's not on there. Not great signings. The Bynum signing I like, even though it's 4-60. Everybody's overpaid. Bynum was a guy I wanted to go. He was the one a couple of years ago that got the interceptions against Brock, and he went to Cal. I would have loved him as a free safety. Same with Morig, but 3 and 51 was going to be too rich for the Niners' blood. That's a nice signing too. Okay. There you go. That's it. Decent signings today. It wasn't a great free agent class. That's the other thing too, is everybody wants to, free agency. Whoa, I want free agency. You know what? It wasn't a good free agent class. It just wasn't. It was not a good free agent class. So a lot of teams overpaid for guys. I understand the frustration for 49ers fans in losing the guys that they lost, but most teams overpaid, and there wasn't a lot of great names out there. This is what it was. T. Higgins was going to be the best free agent out there, and he's a number 2 receiver for the Bengals, and they franchised him. So not great. It wasn't a great free agent class. It wasn't going to fix everything. The bottom line is, and a couple of people have mentioned this tonight, the Niners have to draft their asses off. That's just what happens. Philly's done it the last 3 years. Detroit's done it the last 2-3 years. The Rams have done it. The Rams were in this exact position as the 49ers, 2-3 years ago? And what did they do? They nailed the defensive line drafts. Not only Jared Verse and Fisk last year, but Byron Young, the year before that. And Aaron Donald retired, and nobody even talks about it anymore. And they got Kyron Williams in the 2nd round, and they just, they got Puka Nacua in the 5th round. Like, they just nailed it. That's what they've done. The last couple of 2-3 drafts for the Rams, they've nailed it. And that's where the Niners sit. Because remember, after they won that Super Bowl, they tore everything down. And then they lose Aaron Donald and all that kind of stuff. But they kept Stafford, but they tore their offensive line down. They rebuilt that. They rebuilt their defensive line. That's where the Niners need to be. Rebuild the trenches. The offensive and defensive lines, go heavy into the offensive and defensive lines in this draft, and you can get yourself back on track. I really believe that. And I keep saying this. Greenlaw is the only one to me that's a painful loss, even though it's a large amount of players to lose. I'm just simply saying that it's not impossible, because the Rams did this 2-3 years ago. And they did it with not only the first rounders, but we're talking just like the Niners did to build this thing where it is, or where it was, 2 through 7. You got to nail those picks. Philly's done it. The Rams did it. Detroit does it. That's what you got to do. They got to have those kind of drafts. Hi, John Holmes. It's not a soft reset. I get what you did there. Not a rebuild. Let's see what happens over the next few weeks, and then in the draft before going into convulsions. That's not normally what we fans do. We go into convulsions first, and then we become rational a little bit later once we settle down. But your point is very well taken, which is everyone freaked out today, and everyone's posting, and all the Niner insiders like, oh my God, look at all the guys they've lost. And I'm like, to me, it's the quality over the quantity. I don't care about the quantity. Like I said, Jalen Moore, Aaron Banks, guys like that, I don't care. 𝐃𝐨 𝐬𝐿 is a great name. He wasn't a great player anymore, and they don't utilize him. So he wasn't going to be a guy that they should have spent money on. And I know that everybody loves the guy, and he's a great guy, and his wife makes the cool jackets and all that kind of stuff. I dig it. Like, I like it. But this is what we're talking about with Jed York. He's like, look, man, we're going to go substance over style. Too much style here. We got to bring back 𝐃𝐨 𝐬𝐿. Oh, we got to bring back Dre Greenlaw. Greenlaw hurts. And a year ago, they would have brought him back, but he's going to change that, and he's going to put the pressure back on John and Kyle to do magic again. Hit the drafts again. How about hitting a first-round pick at 11? That would be nice. So I guess right now we're going to keep our eye on Brandon Ayuk. Anything new on Ayuk? I think that most people are like exhausted from the first day, but right before I got on the air, I saw maybe that Cleveland was looking at him. So let me just see one more thing here, because Silver is talking about some things. I need to get him on. Let's see here. Talk to someone familiar with discussions. He's talking more about Bosa. Okay, so that's it. If you missed that, both the Dolphins and the Niners have reportedly offered Joey Bosa deals, but under $10 million. Says this is Silver. The 49ers and Dolphins have each made offers to free agent edge rusher Joey Bosa in the same relative range. He'd get less than $10 million in either scenario. Again, I believe that they are incentive heavy, is what I've heard. So, thank you, John Holmes, for that. Thank you. I flashed that one up there, but that was a great question by Valen. Tommy, did I get yours, Tommy, as well? 49ers. Oh, you're saying if Kyle gets fired. I don't see it. I don't see Kyle getting fired. I would see, I'll tell you this, before I see Kyle getting fired, I see Kyle saying to Jed York, I don't think you're all in. Can you let me out of my deal? I think John Lynch would say, you know what? I don't think we're all in. I'm only here to win a championship. He wouldn't go to another team. I think he would just go to the broadcast booth. That's where the team is kind of done this this particular version of the team is done, like the Harbaugh years, is that if this team doesn't win this year, because remember, 2020 had a lot of injuries, and Jed York said, okay, I get it, a lot of injuries. They bounce back. They go to the NFC Championship game. 𝐾𝐨𝐬𝐧'𝐭 catches a ball. That'd be really nice, and they'd be in the Super Bowl playing Cincinnati. The next year, they go to the NFC Championship game. Brock's arm falls off. That's a bummer. The year after that, they go to the Super Bowl, lose to Kansas City in overtime. Ugh. And then last year, everything caught up to them, and they had a bunch of injuries. And I don't think that's an excuse. I think it's an explanation. But Jed's spending all that money for a 6-11 team. He's decided that he's not going to do that anymore, and it's up to John and Kyle to prove to him once again, and this is why I used the Joe Lacob analogy or comparison, which is Joe Lacob said, well, this team is – I'm not going to spend for this team until they show me something. And he looked at it and he said, if I get Jimmy Butler, I think we're back in this thing. And he's been right so far. I don't know what Jimmy Butler is going to do long term, but so far he's been right. So he's back into spending money. If these guys show – let's say they nail the draft. At 11, they pick up a hammer defensive tackle just for the heck of it. In the second round, they pick up a guard. In the third round, they pick up finally a backup to George, because like I said, this kid that's coming in is more of a move tight end and a blocker. Let's say that they pick up a nice corner, a safety. They pick up, some of the things that they need, a receiver that can give them a little bit more depth. That's a lot of stuff to be asking. But last draft, they nailed a lot of those guys. So let's say they have another draft like that, and they have one more draft like that. Now, Jed's all of a sudden going, hey, it's okay. We can make it rain again. We can do that. We'll make it rain. She's my cherry pie. Hey, guys, come on, let's go. He's making it rain out here. Jed York is going crazy. Get off those wallets. I mean, that's, now he's making it rain again. But until they can show that they're going to do something like that, he's going, look, I'm skeptical now. We went 6-11. I spent a bunch of money. Show me that you still have the magic. Show me that you're not just, because I've said a lot tonight that guys are about name. This guy's still a name. This guy's a name. That guy's a name. Well, John and Kyle, and I think Kyle's still one of the better coaches in the league, but he's going, hey, I'm going to put pressure back on you guys. I want you guys to show me that you can replenish this thing, and then I'll go back out and I'll start spending some money. But right now, I'm going to give this quarterback a boatload of money. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to extend George Kittle. See, that's where everybody thinks, oh, he's not going to spend any money. They're going to spend money on Brock Purdy. He's going to get a market deal. George Kittle is going to be the highest paid tight end in the league. I guarantee you that. And they're going to restructure Fred Warner's deal. They're not going to let him go. He's making 29.9 on the cap this year. They're going to restructure that. So they're going to make some moves. It's just that I think he thought the players that they lost today outside of Greenlaw, and we saw that the market was going to go last night higher, but he looked at the situation and he said, these guys are all guys that are fringe players to me. These guys are, these guys are rims on the Camaro. Like, it's nice. I'd like to have it, but it's not the engine. It's not absolutely what we have to do. So that's what I figured. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Nick J. I appreciate that. Yeah. I've done a strip club voice for a long time. And that's the first time that I've been able to pull it out for quite a long time. Come on, guys. Jed is going crazy. Jed's got a bunch of drinks in him right now. So get off those wallets. We got those $5 dances going on right now. Main stage. Yeah, I haven't done those in a long time. Not that I've ever been to a strip club or anything like that. Because, yeah, I didn't do that. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Very, very nice. Hello, Mike. Very good to see you, my friend. They're all gonna laugh at you. That's a great album, by the way. Do they do comedy albums anymore? They really don't. That was a great comedy album. They're all gonna laugh at you. The Adam Sandler comedy album. Like, no, we used to sit around and watch and listen to Cheech and Chong comedy albums. Nobody does that anymore. Let's recap. If you're just joining us, thank you so much. John Lund Unleashed. We're doing a nighttime show. So, like, if we were a normal, like in the morning, we do 8 to maybe 10 past 10, and I had to go to the dentist today. So the numbness is finally wearing off of my, see, I got my white teeth going. The numbness is wearing off of my mouth now. But when I got home at about 3:00, first of all, I had the nice, the nitrous and all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to check my phone because I'm worried about, oh, there's going to be stuff and I'm going to miss it all. And I did miss a couple of things. And then I got home and I thought, well, God, I got to do a show. And then I thought, well, this has got to wear off because I got the numb stuff going. And then Vegas Sports and Information Network, they called. They're like, hey, can you do something at 7:15? I was already going to do something at 7 with you. And then so we pushed it back to 7:30. And I think we ended up going to like 7:35. So anyway, we had to recap today. We couldn't wait till tomorrow. We'll do it again tomorrow at 8 a.m. But we had to recap and we had to talk tonight so that everybody could be kind of a contributing member to society, so to speak. because we couldn't just go to bed with this without, you guys being able to have some kind of a forum to do something. Let's see here. What else do we got? Anything else new today? Let's see. Okay, nothing new. Just want to make sure. All right. Nothing new on the free agency front other than that what we've already talked about, what we already know. We've gone over everything on the chalkboard as far as that is concerned. As we look at that, episode 84, free agency day one, mass exodus, only Dre Hurts. Now what? Showed you that. NFL free agency, good, bad, and day one, and still out there, which we've done. Make sure that you're subscribing to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. And you see that little logo? So my logo's in the right-hand corner there, John Lund Unleashed. In the other corner, that's Bay Area Sports Collective. So Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube, make sure you subscribe there too. Put the alerts on both places so you know when shows are on, like when Paulie's show is on, when Tommy's show is on. So put those alerts on. We are on every weekday, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to whenever. And then on Saturdays, we're on at 10 a.m. And as we're doing this show, whenever it is warranted, we'll pop back on. So make sure that you have your alerts on so you know when we're going as well. But Bay Area Sports Collective is me, Tom Tolbert, and Paulie Mack, along with Creative Tony. And so you don't want to miss their shows as well. Thanks to those who are watching right now as I'm looking at Instagram. Ton of people watching on Instagram tonight. Very, very cool. So Instagram, thanks to everybody for watching there. At John Lund Radio, you can come on over to the chat room. We'd love to have you. And at John Lund Radio, we are broadcasting live on, as I tell you, on X, at John Lund Radio. So you can keep up to me there. If you want to, just go to the website. That's the best place to do it. JohnLundUnleashed.com. You got all the social media. You got archives of the shows. You got archives of the podcast. And I've still got to write tonight. I need to write about what happened in day number one in free agency. So I'll write a recap of day number one before we go on the show and live tomorrow at 8 a.m. Anybody else with any thoughts tonight? I want to make sure I got to all the supers. Nick J had a super tonight. Mike had a super tonight. John Holmes, everybody. Thank you so much for the supers, everybody. Makes my night. Tommy had a couple of supers tonight talking about Saleh in line. If Kyle got fired, I don't think so. Oh, did I mention this? I didn't hit this one up. Hi, John. I hope you're still here. New team motto, Moneyball. I'm not going to go so far as to say the A's. They're not going A's. Although, what the hell's with the A's signing guys once they get to Sacramento? They didn't sign anybody in Oakland, and then it's like they go to Sacramento, and all of a sudden they have money. But hi, John. It's good to see you. Hope you are still here. Make sure I got to yours today. The Moneyball Niners. I'd still say that the Giants are still way more afraid. And that's what you said, Bill M. When did the Niners become the Giants? I think they became Joe Lacob before Jimmy Butler. Is that they're saying, look, man, unless we show something, you show me something and I'll go spend money again. That's what Jet is doing. Look, I still want to win, but you show me that you can do that magic again and you can hit the draft, and then I'll open up the purse. But if not, sorry, man. Can't do it. We shall see. We shall see. If it was up to me, I think that I'd like to have everybody together. I think that would be the strongest thing. But we're going to see. We're going to see. Thank you, Nick J. Very nice to see you in here. If you are new in the room, thank you very much. I don't know if I've seen this name before, but thank you. You're talking about Darrell Luter Jr., and I appreciate you coming in. He's just had a lot of injuries. I was really high on Darrell Luter Jr. when he first came in, and he's kind of fallen behind a little bit mentally, and so I don't know how much they trust him. That's what I've heard. Let's see. Dentist is code for prostate exam. No, if I had a prostate exam, Moon River. That was my worst effort at that ever. Moon River. A little better. No, I didn't have a prostate. If I did, I can tell you. I would tell you. You know me. I'm 100%. I'm 100% up front in everything that I do. Pretty much. No, I'm not. Sometimes. Most of the time. Never. No, the teeth. Look at how those. Yeah, teeth. Did teeth today. Like I said, I'm still jaw's not feeling great at this point. You know when the stuff starts wearing off and you're like, not great. Not great. Hi, Matthew Delaney. Good to see you. Utah, your take on where they're at and how day went was spot on. Thank you, man. Like I said, you're going to see all those guys leave. And I'm not defending the organization. I don't need to defend the organization. Some people will say that I am. Bay Area Sports Collective, we're not paid by the 49ers. I'm not paid by the 49ers. That's a wonderful jersey that the Niners gave me But I'm not paid by the 49ers. I'd like to see them win because I know a lot of people within the organization. But look, the thing about this show is, and that's why I called it Unleashed, I'm not going to, for years on the radio, you've got to play the political game because you carry the Giants or you carry the you carry the Niners, you carry the Warriors, whatever. We don't have to do that. If I was pissed about what the Niners did today, I would tell you I was pissed about it. There's nobody's going to give me a call. And I've always done that too. I've just been throughout my career. I've done this. And for those who are new in here, I've told this to everybody who comes in on a regular basis. So I'll reset it now. As long as I don't go personal on somebody, as long as I am personally not attacking someone, then I'm fine. If I keep it between the lines, I can defend it. I've run radio stations in my past, and hosts and people, I've gotten those phone calls from angry organizations. I was in Detroit and they had a red bat phone the year they went 0-16. And there was a red bat phone and there was a guy named Bill Keenest and he literally looked like the devil. And Bill would call this red bat phone. And when he didn't like something, I was on the morning show there. And if he didn't like something, my hand should be up here. If he didn't like something we were talking about, the red phone would go off and you could see it. And we didn't care. We were just like, we've got to say what we've got to say about them. So I feel that way about the Niners. I'm not attacking them in any way, shape, or form. But like I said, I'll just pop this up one last time. Dre Greenlaw hurts. I don't think there's any question. And a year ago, they would have re-signed him. Hufanga, they have Mustafa. Ward was never coming back. Moore's a wacky overpay. Banks is even a wackier overpay. Mitchell's hurt all the time. Juszczyk, we knew was getting released. That would have happened whether Jed decided to change things up a little bit or not. And they brought in Luke Farrell to replace him right away as a move tight end blocker. So I understand that losing all those guys at once is like, damn, that's a lot. But I'd rather have quality over quantity. And from the quantity that is leaving, other than Dre Greenlaw, there's not somebody there where I go, damn. I like Hufanga, I really do. But he was hurt too much. And Mustafa, right now at this point, be honest with me. Would you rather have Mustafa or Hufanga? And remember, Mustafa was a 4th-round pick. He's not making anything, and that matters. The fact that Mustafa is going to come in and not cost a lot for you, that's what Jed York is talking about to these guys. He's saying, guys, show me the magic again. Get me some guys in here who can play that aren't going to cost me $20 million a pop. We need to mix that in with the guys. We'll give Brock Purdy his money. We'll give Kittle his money. We'll give Warner his money. We're not going to stop spending. We're not going to try to stop winning. That's the only part about the silver piece that I disagree with is that Jed still has a burning desire to win. There still is a desperation to win amongst the 49ers. But I think where he saw the 49ers get old in the Harbaugh era, they just waited to the end and burned that thing to the ground. Now, finances were different back then too, but they didn't replace anybody, and therefore it died. And what he's saying is, look, we're going to let some of these guys who I think are non-criticals, we're going to let them go. And you got to be able to replace not only the criticals, but the non-criticals, because we're not going to pay Jalen Moore, and we're not going to pay Aaron Banks, and we're not going to pay Hufanga, who's hurt, when we have Mustafa. To me, that makes sense. And I'm not defending the organization. That makes sense. I'll say it for the 100th time this show. Losing Greenlaw hurts. There's no question about it. He would have been the guy that you would want to keep, but justification when you say a guy played 34 snaps off of an Achilles, but my counter would have been, who else you got? Because Ernest Jones and all these different guys, Bolton, they all resigned. So that's going to be a tough position to replace. They're going to have to find somebody long-term in the draft and maybe Kendricks in the short term to replace him. So that's not going to be an easy one. I'm not going to lie on that one. Not that I would ever lie, of course, to you. But I just replacing Greenlaw right now, there isn't anybody on the roster. There's not. Ooh, I like this. You're new into the room. I dig it. Let's talk Niners. What's up, Faithful? How are we feeling after today? What is just the general sense? Because like I said, I'm not really down on it. I totally understand. And I just mentioned quantity over quality. Look, they've got to get a couple of free agents in here. I'm not panicking on the whole thing. But there's a couple of guys, as I've showed you the list a couple of times over, who's available. I've showed it on the list of today's show. So if you missed the show and you just joined us, go back. I'll put the chapters up and you can just click right on it. It'll AI generate and just like, there's the chapters. Oh, this is when they talk about who's available. So we went through that. I popped it up on the screen. There's some names out there that could absolutely fill some holes for the 49ers, at least until some of these rookies that they're going to bring in are ready to go. But there's no question. This draft for the 49ers has to be a hit. So when everybody says, like I said, I was on Vegas Sports and Information Network before I started up the show tonight, and they asked me about the future of the 49ers. And I said, look, This doesn't look great, but the future's not written because the Niners have shown the ability to be able to put together a draft where they nail 4 or 5 of the picks and they're right back in this thing. And that's what Jed York wants the organization to do, is go back, nail 3, 4, 5 picks in a draft. And they did that last year. So do it again. And then you and I can talk again, and I might distribute out some money, but I'm not going to just keep throwing out dumb money. Is Curtis Ramos not a free agent coming off that major knee injury, though, right? So that's it. Papa J is the man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe on John Lund Unleashed and on the Bay Area Sports Collective. So how are we feeling? What is it? I mean, you're looking at that list as a Niner fan, and you're going, oh, man. So how are you feeling? I'd love to know. Let me see how people are feeling. Let's see here. Let's do it. Let's pop out there. Great question. Thank you very much for bringing it up. My feeling is, baba booey. This is business. It happens. Don't feel good to see well-liked players leave, but it's part of the game. See, look at that rational thought right there. Very nice. This is a very good question by our friend Steve. Eagles signed the players they want to stay on the team early. Why can't the Niners do the same? Well, the reason why the Eagles are able to do it right now, remember, they lost Josh Sweat today to the Cardinals. They lost Milton Williams, their defensive tackle, to New England. They lost Darius Slay today to Pittsburgh. So I get it. I understand what you're saying. That seems to be the case. Mekhi Becton hasn't re-signed there. He's a guard that's a free agent. Who else does Philly have? They re-signed Zach Bond, one of their own. They did that. He's really good. And then, but the rest of the guys, here's the key, and this is why I keep saying this with the 49ers. Now, they re-signed the quarterback. He makes a bunch of money. Lane Johnson, their right tackle. They've re-signed their offensive line. They signed Landon Dickerson, one of their guards, to a big deal. But Mekhi Becton was on a one-year deal that wasn't worth very much money. They did re-sign both of the receivers for a bunch of money. But along the defensive front, Jalen Carter is not up yet. Jordan Davis is not up yet. Their linebackers are all young. Nakobe Dean is not up for money yet. They just drafted Cooper DeJean in the secondary. And their other rookie corner, was at Mitchell. So those guys, Quinyon Mitchell. So they got a bunch of young guys, and that's what Jed York is talking about here is, look, I'll re-sign guys, but you got to mix with the young guys, and that's the same thing Detroit is going to do. Aiden Hutchinson still isn't up on his deal. Now they're going to have to pay him a lot of money, and that may change some things. Jared Goff is making money, but think about their young team. Amon-Ra St. Brown just got paid by them. They've paid a few of their offensive linemen. There's no doubt about it, but they've got a lot of young players. Brian Branch, their linebackers aren't making a ton of money. They've got some young guys on that roster who, because they've drafted so well over the last few years, Gibbs, the running back, isn't making any money. So they're mixing it. And that's what I'm talking about with the 49ers is they got so top heavy financially that all Jed York is asking for, and it's a big ask, is to say, look, we're some of these fringe guys that we don't necessarily need, that that are not the engine that drives this thing. We're not going to overspend those guys, and you guys are have to go back into the draft and make some smart moves before I open up the wallet at a really high level again. We're not going to spend $334 million on all these kind of things. So I think that's the answer to that question is, and again, I'd liken it most to the Rams. The Rams got really top heavy financially after they won that Super Bowl. They let a bunch of guys go. And then, to the credit, even though we don't want to give it to him, to any LA team, give the credit to Les Snead, because he went in there and he nailed the draft 2 years in a row. He got a bunch of mid-round guys who are helping them financially. And all of a sudden they're able to sign some guys because they got a bunch of guys not making any money. And that's going to change. It changes for every team. Kind of like whoever near the bottom there said, hey, it happens every single year. And that's just a fact that at some point you're going to get to this. So that's where we are. Mama tighten the purse strings. I mean, that's right. I mean, it's like, you get your chores done? No, but can I just have that $20 now? No. So that's where they are. They got to catch up to the rest of the NFC. That's what it comes down to. Let's see. Never better than the great Eddie D. I agree with you 100%. It's just, hi, Rico XXX. The problem is that the rules are different. You could just sit there and spend, and now you really can't do that. Stop it. Yeah. What wasn't Jake Moody part of that today? Just kidding, I think. Let's see. Hi, Chuck Santos. How much should we save on the cap with the cuts today? That's a great question. Let me go back. Let me see if they've updated it. That's a wonderful question. It really is. I should have done that before. I don't know if they have the cap space updated, but let me look. Since you asked, I think that was a great question. We should know that because they actually should be in a decent position now. Cap space, any NFL salary cap space. Let me look real quick. I know this is extremely entertaining to watch me vamp. They haven't updated it yet. Let's see. Before today, letting all these guys go, the Niners they're at 36 million under the cap. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's like middle of the road. So like in the middle of this whole thing. So, but here's what's weird. So the Chiefs go out and sign Jalen Moore, which is a ridiculous signing, and they're 19 million under. The Dolphins are talking to Joey Bosa. They're 6 million under, or 6 million over. Excuse me, 6 million over. The Chiefs and the Dolphins are over. The only 3 teams over are Saints, Dolphins, and Chiefs. And yet, they signed a bunch. The Rams. Again, to put it in perspective, Rams were able to sign Devontae Adams. They're 32 million under. The Niners are more under at 36 million. But what do the Niners have to do? They got to sign a quarterback, and that's going to be a major problem. The Rams have already done that with Stafford, and so the Rams can go out and sign that. Why? Because they got a bunch of young players. They're not paying Puka Nacua anything. They're not paying anybody along that. They're not paying Jared Verse anything. They're not paying Brandon Fisk anything. They're not paying Byron Young anything. When you hit the draft and you hit all these young players, they're not paying Kyron Williams anything yet. So they can go out and they can get a Devontae Adams, and that becomes the difference. Again, the team that scares me right now, Seattle has the 5th most salary cap, most money under the salary cap, and some of that money is going to go to Sam Darnold, but they've still got the ability to fix what they had the worst interior defensive or offensive line. I'm shocked they didn't do what Chicago did. So, yeah, it doesn't look like the cap is updated yet. We'll have it tomorrow at 8 a.m. when we do the show. I apologize, but I usually go to Over the Cap, and usually they update pretty fast, but it doesn't look like they have updated that yet. Any more questions, comments, thoughts? I see a political question that I will not touch, but I do love you just the same. Let's see here. What else do we have? Let's see. No, it's not counted yet, Nick J, against the cap, the 10 to 12 million, but you're right. That's exactly what they need to do. They need to hold that aside, but they do not count that yet. Warriors win 131-20. I'm going to have to go back and watch that game. Thank you for the update, Mr. Bollinger. Andrew, I live by Bollinger, so I'm calling you Bollinger. If that is not correct, I apologize. People hate when you screw their name up, and I don't like that. Oh, my friend, you don't sell it. Are only losing it on paper. Believe me, me and my wife today were just like, oh my God. We were not digging it, but you can't panic. Do not panic. Do not panic. Do not panic. Top heavy, sure, our recent draft history is suspect. Yeah, Valen, you're 100% right. And it goes back to, and this is what's funny. So a lot of people say, well, Brock Purdy saved him from the whole thing of Trey Lance. He did not. They didn't have a first-round pick in 2022 and 2023. They finally had one last year, and they took Ricky Pearsall, who I think Ricky's still going to be good, but the jury's out. But when you don't have a first-round pick in 22 and 23, it just hurts. Because now, why are the Niners top-heavy? Well, they should have 2 first-round picks right there that aren't making a lot of money and are productive players, and they don't because they traded it for Trey Lance. So as far as the quarterback position, yeah, Brock Purdy saved the Niners. But as far as losing those picks, he did not. And so now you had a terrible draft in 22, except for you got to give it up to Purdy as the 7th rounder, and you had a terrible draft in 2023. And that includes guys like Jake Moody and Jair Brown and those kind of things. And I'm just, they picked Cam Latu in the 3rd round. They've been trying to get somebody as a caddy for Kittle forever. Braylon Willis, Cam Latu, they just the 22 and 23 drafts. This is why they were sitting here. Why we're sitting here right now is because there's a few reasons. Trey Lance, because they lost those picks. The Buckner deal, which turned into Kinlaw, which turned into Hargrave, which was a massive overpay and sucked. So when you have these kind of situations where in 22 and 23, outside of Purdy, you're not really getting contributions from your draft. So what are you doing? You're going out in free agency and you're overspending. When those guys don't come through, then at some point the credit card bill comes due and you go, and Jed just says, to hell with it. I'm not doing it. Now, whether you agree with that, as we've talked about for almost 2 hours now, you can debate that, and there's no doubt, but I'm telling you why it's happening. And then I told you right at the beginning of the show, if you're just joining us, they have $65 million in dead cap space. And this is really the major problem for Jed as he looked at who he's paying that doesn't play for the team. That's where he got pissed. Javarius Ward this year, $13 million not to play. Armstead, $15.5 million not to play. This is in 2025, not to play for the 49ers. Deebo Samuel, $31 million not to play for the 49ers. Hargrave, $8 million not to play for the 49ers. He's looking at $65 million, the most in the league, for players not playing for him. And he's going, what are we doing? And that's why, again, if Ayuk is traded right now and I don't know anything about it, I saw a rumor right before we went on the air here that maybe the Cleveland would be involved or interested. And look, they need another receiver. But I'll just reiterate this to you. If you trade Brandon Ayuk, it's $18 million of dead cap. Now, that's going to be offset by his salary, but still, after that, there's $11 million of dead cap that you will eat. Salt, pepper, hollandaise, gravy, cut it all up. 18 million. Tasty. So, in addition to the money that you're already paying, then you can throw another heap of Brandon Ayuk on there. Is Jed York that pissed off about the contract that he's willing to eat more money? And I keep saying, with eating the money, with him probably being worth at this stage, being injured, maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick. And oh, by the way, who's going to catch the ball? I don't see how that makes logical sense unless Jed York is so pissed and is taking this thing personally because he didn't like the contract last year. My question would be, and hindsight is always 20/20, I understand that. But my question would then be, you rubber stamped it. Kyle Shanahan isn't rubber stamping those checks. John Lynch is not rubber stamping those checks. It goes to Jed York. And you either say yay or nay when it comes to a situation like that. He says yay or nay in a lot of things, but when it comes to, hey, we're going to re-sign Brandon Ayuk perceptually at $30 million a year, even though it was just over 25, but still, that's a lot of money. And so they're not going to just be able to do that and not say to Jed York, you're cool with this, right? Which is why they're losing guys this year, because that was an emotional thing where Kyle ran up the stairs. I got news for you. And I think you could back me on this. Anytime you make some sort of an emotional last-second buy, you're always pissed at yourself later. Like Kyle running up the stairs so that John Lynch isn't calling Pittsburgh one last time. Sorry, man. That's a bad move. That's just a bad move. I'm just telling you right now. Who else we got in the room? I think 49er Brian just arrived. That's very, very nice. Good to see you, my friend. So anyway, do we have any more damage that we need to? Anything else? That was a great question. Let's Talk Niners saying that how we feeling tonight. I like it. You say Adam Peters smoked some good shit paying Kinlaw $30 million guaranteed. I know. Worst signing of the day. Worst signing of the day. And the only way that I can look at that is that Adam Peters just said, you know what? I helped draft him. I know he's good. I just know he's good. I looked at that tape of South Carolina. I know he's good. And I'm just like, all right. Because no one was offering that. The Jets offered him 1-7 last year, and he didn't live up to that. And you're giving him 30 guaranteed? 30 guaranteed. I mean, that was the drunkest of the drunk signings today. Jalen Moore was not great. Aaron Banks was not great. Dan Moore was not great of some of the signings today. Milton Williams, the Patriots had boatloads of money. He's a product of winning a Super Bowl and being part of that defensive line. 4-104. That was a drunken signing because New England had too much money. But for my, if I was picking, and I am picking. If I'm picking the worst signing of the day today, it's easily Kinlaw. There's no way you need to give him $30 million guaranteed. There's no stinking way. But that's Adam Peters going, I helped draft him. I watched the tape. I'm 100% sure he's going to be great. But now I'm going, well, he has a knee injury and he has this. And, look, he looks awesome. When you walk up to Kinlaw, he could crush your face with his hand. I mean, he is a massive dude. And I've been around tons of, big human beings in my life covering these sports. NBA players are the most ridiculous, but still a lot of NFL players that are big. There's big, and then there's Javon Kinlaw. Like, he is a big monster man with like these long ass, massive vines for arms. I mean, you look at him and you're like, this guy has to be great. And that's what happened with Adam Peters today. He's just like, I saw it. I know it. And it's like, no. He's been with two teams, dude. You didn't need to give him $30 million guaranteed. When I saw that today, because people who were with the morning show this morning knows what I knew what I did. I saw that he signed. I didn't see the number because I was staring at my iPad the whole time, and I'm quickly going through all these different places where I find stuff. And when I saw that Kinlaw signed with Washington, it didn't surprise me because Adam Peters was there, who helped draft him in 2000. What was the year? Whatever it was, 19, whatever Kinlaw was drafted, 20, because it was after Buckner and after the Super Bowl. So it didn't surprise me. And then I saw the $30 million guarantee, and I didn't fall out of my chair, but I felt like I could have. I was like, you've got, because I did. I said, I think I said, like, okay, last year got 1 in 7, maybe he got 10, maybe he got like 1 in 10 or something, which I think is outrageous anyway. And he got 30 guaranteed. I was like, oh my God. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, that's the overpay of the day. And that's saying something. When you're talking about free agency day one, like, that's just like, give me a break. Let's see here. It says, where are you seeing all these people that arrived? It shows only 2 people watching on YouTube. You are probably, Scott, on Bay Area Sports Collective, which we just started. If you come over to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, that's John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. That's where the majority of the people are as we're trying to grow the Bay Area Sports Collective. So make sure that you're subscribing on John Lund Unleashed. That's where a lot of the people that build up the community are. Or you could be hanging out at Bay Area Sports Collective as well. So there are about 800 people watching right now on X, and there are about 300 people watching on Instagram, and the number I'd have to shut something down if I was going to look on YouTube, but the John Lund Unleashed, there's a ton of people in this room, and then there's more people over on Bay Area Sports Collective. As I'm looking right there, yeah, Bay Area Sports Collective. I could remove Bay Area Sports Collective, but I'm not going to. But we're just building that channel up with Tommy and with Paulie. So that's probably where you are. Come over here if you want to. I can still see your stuff, so it's not like you're alone. You're still in this room because the chat room that I have has, let's see, X is not in a chat room on this. Instagram's not in this chat room, but I keep checking it. Facebook is in this chat room if you're on Facebook. Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube is in this chat room. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube is in this chat room, and Twitch is in this chat room. So we're on, that's what I mean. We're on like all these places, but if you're seeing a different number, it's probably because you're on Bay Area Sports Collective, which we just barely launched. So just letting you know that I know it's confusing. Believe me, I'm trying to just make it so that we get in this one place. Hello, Joy. It is very nice to see you 2 times in one day. I know it's probably too much me, pretty much. I mean, it's pretty much too much me. I apologize. Hello, 49er Brian. I did not see the intro there. I'm a big fan of 49er Brian, so very, very nice. Here's our friend Steve. Only Cleveland is dumb enough to want Ayuk before his medical exam that will determine whether he can play. Brandon might be out for 2025. Any team trade for that. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even see who actually wrote that or the tweet of Brandon Ayuk. Let me double check if I can find that again. I just saw it right before we came on the show, and because things were going so fast and furious, I didn't want to miss anything. But I've said this numerous times. I don't think that Brandon Ayuk's going anywhere. Right now, his value is as low as it's going to be. We just were talking about stocks and how the market is right now. You don't want to look at your portfolio. He's as low as he possibly could be right now. So that's number one. You're not going to get anything hardly for Brandon Ayuk. Somebody's got to catch the football, and you're going to lose $18 million of dead cap when you've already got $65 million against the dead cap for guys not playing for you. So the only way I see that is if Jed is just if he sees red every time he's got to stamp that check, because I don't think he actually signs it. I think he probably has some sort of a rubber stamp that says Jed York, stamp, stamp, stamp. Like, it's actually done electronically, but you see what I'm saying? It pisses him off probably every time he sees his signature on a check of Brandon Ayuk. If he just sees red, if he redlines every single time, it's like, oh my God, I'm raw. That every time he sees a Brandon Ayuk check and he knows what the amount of money is, then okay, because that's the only way he gets traded. If it's an emotional trade that Jed York has just said, I can't deal with this guy anymore, then maybe so. But generally speaking, that's not how it goes. I mean, you've got to separate the two. You've got to separate the two. Let's see. Hi, Dank. Yeah, I know everybody was ready to bounce. I do this all the time. I'll be like, hey, I got to go, everybody. And we've been going 2 hours. I said I'd do a couple hours tonight. We were at exactly 2 hours, but everybody keeps jumping in and they want to ask more. Everybody, and everything else. So yeah, I like to make sure that we do that. So anyway, any other questions, comments, thoughts? Everybody jumping in tonight. I really appreciate everybody stopping by. I really felt that it was very important that we addressed everything while everybody was talking. And everybody wanted to kind of buzz about this whole thing. But we went through, again, if you missed it, just go back to the beginning of the show. You can rewatch it if you missed any of it. And I'll put the chapters up if you're new. What I do is right after the show, I shut it down, I download everything, and then I put the chapters up. And then you can bounce to any part of the show that you want to, because we went through what do you do now? We showed you who's still available. We went through all those things a little bit earlier on in the show. In fact, I did it a couple of times. So if you want to make sure that you know, like, okay, well, who's left, Lund? Who's left? Bunch of people left still. So don't panic on any of those kind of things. Scott, I agree with you 100%. Says the only move I did not like was the Greenlaw move. I would agree with you. In the past, I think they would have overspent for him, but this is what Jed means. They're great linebackers in the draft, but D played different with Greenlaw and linebacker. Agree 100%. I don't have insight into this, but I'll just tell you, I think Eric Kendricks could be a guy short term, and then you draft a linebacker or two, because I think they need to. I think I got a pretty elite strip club voice. Hey guys, get off those watts. Go out there working hard to keep you guys. Let's go, guys. $1 bills are not going to get it done. Let's get some 5s and 20s going there. Hey, she's on main stage. Her name's Crystal. She's working hard. She's brand new with the Spearman Rhino. That kind of thing. But I rarely go to strip clubs. I haven't been one in years. But that's not that. I mean, I might have missed my calling, to be honest with you. Hey, Mark 187. That's a great call right there, by the way. I like him. I really like him. He's a nice defensive tackle. He'd be a nice rotational piece. They are really dying to get somebody in here as far as interior defensive tackle. So that's a nice one as well. Oh, did you check out the tape? By the way, I have this up if you're a Niners fan. This is cassette tape from, was it the NBA Finals in 1998, Game 2, courtside, Jordan's Bulls versus the Utah Jazz. And I was a courtside reporter for the Utah Jazz radio network. And I chased Steve Young all around the place. The place was absolutely packed. I'd already gotten told no by Jack Nicholson and Woody Harrelson and all these stars. And Steve was nice enough to stop, but he kept trying to ditch me, and I had to follow him around. And anyway, I found this tape over the weekend, and I got a digital cassette recorder to put into my computer, and I downloaded it, and I've uploaded it to YouTube. So during the week, I'll play it on the show. But if you want to hear it, you can hear it on my YouTube channel, John Lund Unleashed, and it's hilarious. But later in the week, when free agency kind of slows down a little bit, I'll make sure that I play it. But anyway, for everybody who's new in here, really appreciate everybody coming in. As you can see, we have a really cool community, and everybody's laid back. And, just because you disagree or whatever, everybody's way cool about it. So I really appreciate you joining. We are live Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to, whatever we get done. If you can't make it, I understand. Go back and watch the show every day. And then Saturdays, we have a 10 a.m. show. And then, as I pointed out, we just pop on anytime. So we got to, like today, we had to talk about NFL free agency and all these guys that the Niners lost today. So we just popped on and we went into it. Still good questions coming. 49ers, Brian, Mason. No, but I got to be honest with you. I know this from a fact of the organization. They really like Guerendo. I think that Jordan Mason is a luxury, as we saw today. Luxuries are not affordable by the 49ers. They're stripping down a little bit as far as luxury is concerned. Does not mean they don't want to win at a really high level. But I think if Jordan Mason gets a decent offer, and I know now that he will, only because teams are talking right now. They're kind of doing a regroup after day one. They're staying late tonight. This is how it works. They're all staying late, and they're all kind of regrouping, and they're going, okay, who's out there? Who could fit us? And I guarantee you there's a team like Dallas, for example, who isn't aggressive in free agency. The Cowboys haven't signed a player, as crazy as this sounds, for more than $6 million AAV since 2015 in free agency. So I don't know that they would do this, but they need a running back really badly. And if I'm Dallas, I'm going, wait a minute, I smell blood in the water for the 49ers. They're not going to keep anybody that they don't deem to be absolutely critical to what they're going to try to do. Let's make a decent offer to Jordan Mason. We probably get him. And remember, first half of the year, this guy's leading the NFL in rushing. So I really like the guy. But the way that I would look, let's say I'm Jed York and John Lynch comes to me and says, hey, we want to keep Jordan Mason. And I say, well, you have Christian McCaffrey, and when he's healthy, you play him like 90% of the time. So what am I paying Jordan Mason for? Are you going to have more? Because, and this is what I would say if I was John Lynch. Look, the way we're going to keep Christian McCaffrey healthy is kind of the way that the Warriors keep Steph Curry healthy. Let's pull back his time a little. His minutes, touches would be in the NFL versus minutes. Let's pull his touches back. And then Jack York's going to say, well, we took 𝐼𝐸 in the 4th round. So I like Jordan Mason, north-south guy, fits the zone scheme perfectly. But I think if someone comes in with a decent offer, he's gone. I hope not, but the way that things have gone today, that's my thinking. Steve, that's a good question on Leonard Floyd. They can save some money. I think it all depends on what they can get in the edge market. And this is why I think this is what scares me about Joey Bosa is we've talked about this, you and I. He's the 72nd ranked edge rusher, as I said. If you weren't with us a little bit earlier today, so those are the top 10 edge rushers right there. Aiden Hutchinson, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Nick Bosa. First number is overall, second number is run, third number is pass. So those numbers are in the 90s and 80s, right? Overall. Here's here's Joey Bosa, 72nd last year, 61.1 overall. It's a terrible number. So he's not elite. He's not great. But what scares me Steve, is that they sign a Joey Bosa. They know that he's a rotational player, but they can't afford both. So they decide, okay, we're going to take Bosa over Floyd. And even though Floyd, to me, got double-digit sacks last year not because he was great, but he still got double-digit sacks, something that Joey Bosa hasn't gotten since 2021. And Bosa's a better run defender, there's no question, but he played in less than half the snaps last year. The Chargers tried to keep him healthy. So I'm just not a big Niner or a big Bosa guy at this point. I think the story's amazing. I think it'd be really cool. But Mama Bosa doesn't run the 49ers. And it looks like emotion's out the window from now on. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to say in a long way, and you just said it much more succinctly than I did. Pass on Bosa. That's what I would think. Because the question back to Steve is, well, what would that mean for Leonard Floyd? And I think it would mean that Leonard Floyd is gonzo. That's what I would think. So just my 2 cents. I do not have insight on that one. So I'll let you know. Yeah, man, let's go. 30 to 4,000. Let's go. Hit it. Yeah, we're 30 away from 4,000. How about that? Yeah. Let's see. All right. If John Holmes is leaving, I'm going to leave. That's all there is to it. Really appreciate you guys hanging out, though. A lot of new names in the room tonight. I really appreciate it. Everybody coming out, making your opinion known. Hi, Jonathan Dean. What about Leonard Floyd? So there's another question. I think Floyd stays around because they need an edge, but if they go out and they get one, then I think Leonard Floyd's probably gone because he's making in the 9 to 10 range. I don't have it right in front of me and I'm too lazy to go get it, but it's in the 9-10 range. It's not outrageous, but Joey Bosa is not going to come here for less. It's probably around 10. And then there's going to be a bunch of incentives involved in that whole thing. All right, there you go. Yeah, I got to go take some Tylenol. This all my stuff's wearing off from the dentist today. It's killing me. And that's why I brought, this is like a seltzer. I know you guys are going to make fun of me for that. Go ahead. I just needed something to take the edge off. All right. Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, I'm not a Jameis Winston guy either. I know that's a reference to that, Tommy. Not a Jameis guy. Funny, be a good quote. Not a big fan. Not a big fan at all. All right. I think that'll do it. We did a couple of hours. I think that was well done. And I think everybody hanging out today, very, very nice. I appreciate it a ton. Actually, what else do we have? Anything else? Ooh, nice. I like that I like, Frank, that you're going whiskey here. I got some whiskey behind me, but I got to make sure that oh, there you go. There's my guy Pine Needle. Very good. I think we've talked today. Thanks, Rob, and I'm glad that you came in here. Kyle, I like 𝐾𝐨𝐬𝐿, man. He's a great person, but we're starting to see these situations where guys are getting older. And here's the thing. Is I think he's less effective as a blocker, and I think they need to change that, which is why they brought in Luke Farrell. Farrell's going to be the move tight end. He's going to be the blocker. He's not going to be the pure number 2 tight end behind George Kittle. People who think that don't know. He's blocking. He's a move tight end. He's a better blocker than 𝐾𝐨𝐬𝐿. They paid him $20 million over 3 years. So they're paying him more than they would have even been paid 𝐾𝐨𝐬𝐿. So it's what I'm saying about Joey Bosa. It's what I'm saying about Jonathan Allen. And now what I'm saying about 𝐾𝐾𝐨𝐬𝐿. Certain guys have great names, but they just don't utilize them. I mean, 𝐾𝐾𝐨𝐬𝐿 is going to go to a team and they're going to utilize him in a way that I think is going to be more than what the Niners did. He's open on a lot of plays. He can catch the ball. He can do those kind of things. But the 49ers, I think, need to get back to smash mouth football where they've got to redo the offensive and defensive lines, and they got to get a fullback in there that's an ass kicker and start knocking people off the ball. And that's not really what 𝐽uszczyk does. And Farrell's a bigger guy at about 6'5", 255, and he's going to go in there. And like I said, he's going to be a move tight end, and he's going to knock people off the ball. And he's not here to catch passes. He's got, I think, 36 catches in his entire career, but he's a blocker. And so they're going to replace 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐽. That's what the move is going to be. And I'll do this one more time before I get out of here. And I know we've seen this a bunch of times today if you've been in the room for the last couple of hours, but that's what they lost today. Greenlaw's a big loss. Afunga's already going to be replaced. They've already got a guy in place for that, Mustafa. Ward is going to be Renardo Green or somebody else. Jalen Moore and Banks, like I've said many times, is drunk. And Elijah Mitchell's hurt. And 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐽 is, as they say, the goings. He's the bottom of the going. The top of the coming is Luke Farrell. And Luke Farrell is going to take the place of 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭. So that's the whole thing today. Good stuff. Thank you again. If you're new, please subscribe. Hit the like button because that helps the algorithm. What else do we need to say today? Not only with John Lund Unleashed, please, on YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to that. But please, Bay Area Sports Collective. If you go over to Bay Area Sports Collective for me real quick and give that one a subscribe, that would be awesome. In fact, you know what I'm going to do for you? Because I love you this much. You don't even have to leave the show. There you go. That is a QR code. And you can use your phone right now, and that will let you subscribe to Bay Area Sports Collective without even leaving me. So I'll put that up there for just a moment. And you can, right there, you can hit on that and you will subscribe to Bay Area Sports Collective, which is me, Tom Tolbert, and Polly Mack with Creative Tony. And if you have your alerts on, then you'll know when those shows are on. But we are here Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Shows at night when we need them, like this one, day one of free agency, when everybody leaves and you need a shoulder to cry on. And we are here Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. And like I said, select things. Plus, get your alerts on because I do, like tonight, I'm going to write a blog tonight. I'm going to put a video along with that. So we're going to release that later. I release all sorts of shorts and all sorts of things. So if you just do that, and the bottom line is, if you go to johnlundunleashed.com, I've got all the social media stuff up there, like X and those kind of things. So that'll make it easier for you to follow along. But I just want to make sure I thank everybody because everybody was really cool tonight. Really, really cool tonight. Mr. Joe, it's nice to see you in here, my friend. So lots of people jumped in tonight, a lot of new names that I hadn't seen before. So I really appreciate it. Maybe we'll do some more of these night shows because we tend to get a really good reaction from the night people. So really good stuff. Everyone have a great night. Let's gear up for day number 2 in free agency tomorrow. I'll do all the research tonight, talk to a few people. We'll be ready for tomorrow at 8 a.m. And hopefully the Niners have a better day and get a couple of names in here. So that's what we got going on. Thanks. Have a tremendous, Monday? Oh my gosh, it's only Monday. Have a tremendous Monday night. And we will make sure that we are back tomorrow, 8 a.m. with a lot of new information for you. Plus, we'll hit up the Warriors who got to win again tonight, all those kind of things. We'll get you caught up on everything tomorrow. Please like and subscribe. Everybody, have a tremendous night. And thank you for tuning in to John Lund.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!